Y'all ready? Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian Kellenberger. I'm the Director of Beach Operations. Appreciate your time this afternoon to participate and attend the 2017 postseason vending meeting. The purpose of our meeting is to offer up some statistics of what we gathered this year as beach code enforcement. Let some of our other agencies that work on the beach give a brief narrative of what they experienced, and then to open up the room to take input from all the rest of the people that work on the beach or enjoy the beach in different capacities. So great attendance this afternoon. By show of hand, who all is a vendor? All right, good deal. Appreciate it. I'm glad everybody's interested in participating, so that we can make our team, the beach team, better for everybody concerned. Get in concert with one another, and maybe achieve that elusive harmony that I often speak of in Board of County Commission meetings. So appreciate you coming tonight. Before we get started, a few introductions. Jay Tusa, the TDC Executive Director. Jeff McVeigh is our Beach Code Enforcement Manager. We have members of the Beach Code Enforcement team in here. Sammy Sanchez, South Walton Fire District Fire Marshal. David Vaughn, he's our South Walton Fire District's Lifeguard Director. I think that's who we got in here. So they'll be speaking. Oh, Matt McGarry with South Walton Turtle Watch is back here hiding in the back. Lieutenant Ogboom is the Walton County Sheriff's Office. You're the beach patrol lieutenant, or? Okay. Gotcha. Good. 10-4. All right, great. Before we get started, if you can all silence your phones. If you have to take a phone call, if you can take it outside, we'd appreciate it. And as we talk tonight, if you have a difference of opinion than the person talking, treat everybody with respect like you would like to be treated. So with that being said, I'd like to go ahead and get started into, if you didn't get a chance or you wasn't enough copies, this is what I call our activity report. So we collect data on everything we do. And so in a nutshell is a beach code enforcement contact is where we stop and talk to somebody. Anybody on the beach where we are meeting out enforcement action. We have this digitally, so if you would like that, just get with Tricia after the meeting and say, hey, I'd like a copy of this in digital format. She can send it to you. And so what it is, it's broken down by, this is through it's through August. And we will actually add one more month to it, so it's not all the totals. And then it's also broken out by category, by officer, and each page is the category, and then it's broken out by disposition. So disposition, or category, is the different sections of the code that we're tasked with enforcing. Disposition is what was the outcome of that contact. So it can be in compliance. Not all categories have a compliance factor. Written warning, verbal warning, citation, and then we have a category or a disposition called other. And in different categories it means different things, but basically it means that the person quickly became compliant or there was officer discretion used in the encounter. So a lot of them don't deal with vendors, only a few of them do. One of the items is what we call leave no trace vendors. So that's where items we find on the beach after the permitted hours. This year we had 216 contacts on that. Of that 216, about a quarter received citations, half received a verbal or written warning, and then there was another quarter of other disposition. So the other disposition is probably where we discovered that the beach equipment was sniped off the pile by somebody during the night. We realized it wasn't your fault. Or we called you that evening and you came and got it. So That's actually a pretty good stat there, 216 encounters, over the course of the summer season with the amount of people. This year we had 270 permits, so that would be the mix of delivery permits and specific place permits across 50 vendors. Pretty big difference from last year. I think last year it was around 150 versus 65 vendors, so it looks like that a lot of the vendors are picking up more specific place permits. So that's good. Get good coverage on the beach. The other item, I'm sorry about this being so small, it's hard to get this amount of data on an 8.5 by 11. That's why I say it's easier to read it in digital format or on 11 by 17. The other category is what we call just beach vendor. That's chapter 2260. And that's where we have about 10 different paragraphs in there that are the meat of the code. And of that, we had 394 contacts. Half the time it was a verbal warning. A quarter of the time, or a little less than a quarter, was in compliance. And then about a quarter of other dispositions. So last year we had a lot of codes that affected vendors that were revised. And so we always take a year, that year of revision to use officer discretion and give out warnings to help people that are affected by the code, understand and have opportunity to become compliant. But once again, 394 out of the amount of vendors we have on the beach and the amount of product we have on the beach is a very good number. Bonfires, we checked 1,666 bonfires. 80% of the time they were compliant. Once again, very good number. In the past, we've had some issues with bonfires. I don't know, how many bonfires did we permit this year? Did we?
A little over 2,000.
Okay, so we check about 75% of them, during the year, and of that, 80% of them are compliant. So great job on bonfires. We appreciate it. As you know, there's a lot of pressure on bonfires from various groups on the beach that either don't want bonfires or don't want the litter left over from bonfires. So thank you all for doing the best we can on that. And it goes back to what I've been asking for, or letting you know that what would be a good thing for vendors is to self-regulate so that you don't get regulated off the beach. Other than that, special events, which doesn't include all vendors, and it has a certain class of vendors. Another low number, 167, and in that, most of the times it was compliant, or we had a other disposition, which meant that we got there, things were as permitted, but there may have been another violation, such as glass or lights that didn't have FDEP permits and stuff like that. So overall, vending this year was good, was better than good, a lot better than the previous years. I don't have our complete tally on complaint log, but from what I experienced, reviewing monthly reports, is that most of our complaints were centered around the codes that we changed, in particular around tents and the customary use code that was adopted, which is Chapter 23. So vendor complaints, like I say, weren't as prevalent as they had been before. And keep in mind, when I say complaint, there's two types of complaints. There's a valid complaint and there's an invalid complaint. But they first come in as all complaints, and then we sort through them all to find out if the complaint had validity to it, and then we classify them as that. So overall, good job, appreciate it. And the other purpose of this meeting, like I say, is to take in input. We combine this with input from a couple of advisory committees that deal with our public amenities and our beach management. And then we go to the Tourist Development Council, and we offer up this data combined with the input we receive, and offer up recommendations of what we believe would be code revisions that are in need of consideration. And then there's great discussion at that meeting, and then that goes from the TDC meeting to the Board of County Commission meeting, along with all the previous input and the disposition that it received in the TDC meeting. In other words, did they approve it or disapprove it? Then the Board of County Commissioners takes input during that meeting, public input, and then they make decisions on whether the revisions ought to be adopted or not adopted. This year, we do have a lot of revisions that only concern with text cleanup and to remove some conflict. And all that will be published prior to the TDC meeting. We will put it on our website, make it available through our website, through the Beach Code Enforcement page. There'll be a link on there, and it'll be a strike and underline version of the document that shows what we're changing. Most of it is, like I say, once again, cleaning up where we have simple text conflict, and it's not where we're trying to change policy. It's to make it easier for the user to understand and make it easier for code enforcement to enforce. Less ambiguity, less lack of clarification makes it hard for everybody to interact, and it creates chaos on the beach. So I'd like to give our other agencies that work on the beach an opportunity, and so we'll start with Jeff as code enforcement manager, give a brief narrative of what they saw as actual people on the beach.
Good evening. I know y'all are excited to see me. So at least it's in this setting. So having said that, I mean, we have to kind of mirror what Brian said. We had a lot less issues than what we normally have. However, there was a lot more presence on our part. Everybody knows, based on the outcomes of the commissioners a year ago, there we went from 1 officer in 2012, 2 in 13, 3 in 13, and then 11 in 17. So there's quite a significant increase in staff, which is why you'll see the numbers climb drastically, and which is also why you'll see less violations and more in compliance scenarios, because the presence allows us to kind of have the you don't know when we're going to be there, so it helps people to stay a little more within the bounds and within the lines. Basically what we are hearing on the street from the guys, not only our staff but vendors, is that just tell us what the rule is and we'll follow the rule, but we just got to know what it is, which is what Brian's talking about, trying to clean up some of the verbiage in the ordinance in one section that defines it one way, and then somewhere else it speaks about the same issue, but it's a little bit different terminology, so it makes it a little harder, one, for you to understand, and two, for our guys to enforce. So if I had to tell you what problem did we have this year, it was vendors that just decided that the $100 or $200 or $500 citation was just the cost of doing business, and we've had them tell us that hey, well, that's what the customer wants, that's what we got to do, so just write me the ticket, and we oblige them in that. So there's more than one company on the beach that's got multiple $500 citations for the same violation just because they choose to do it because it's the cost of doing business. So we don't like that. It puts us in a bad spot. It makes us the bad guy. That's what the county pays us to be, is the bad guy. So sometimes we just have to be the bad guy. And a lot of times it results in people coming back to us or through management, if you will, back down to us as why are you being mean to the beach vendors, when in reality we're just doing what the beach vendors are asking us to do, and that's just, write us a ticket, it's the cost of doing business. So along with the Beach Ambassador program, it's helped us considerably when we do. A lot of people don't understand we operate under Florida Statute 162. Florida Statute 162 says that our objective is voluntary compliance. So we educate for voluntary compliance. We try to talk to as many people as we can. I mean, you can look at your stat sheet. Brian's a number crunching pie chart build, and the more charts and the more graphs you got, the better he likes it. And you can look at all of that stuff and see that the number of contacts is like here, and the number of problems are here. And it's a credit to the guys that we have on the beach that's doing exactly that. They're educating for voluntary compliance. And then You heard the number of vendors that are there, the number of permits that are issued, the number of, just take the Leave No Trace, for example. I've said this in meetings before. Leave No Trace was 260 some, or just over 200 vendor violations. Probably 10 or 15, 20, maybe even 20% of that was the same companies, the same 2 or 3 companies out of all that list. There's companies that I don't even know who they are because we've not had a conversation with them all summer long. That's the companies that we enjoy dealing with because they do what the commissioners have asked them to do via the ordinance, and that's how it works. But if you take the Leave No Trace and you call it 300, you got 300 Leave No Trace violations all summer long. And if you go back and count the number of inventory that's permitted through the vending permits for the season, you're looking at permitting somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000 or 9,000 chairs or umbrellas or paddle boards or whatever they've got permitted as far as their equipment goes. So if you take 75% of that and say that they put out 75% of their stock the 3 busiest months of the summer, and we got 300 of them, that's like pennies. That's way low if you compare the grand scheme of things. So it's not like we're having problems, but we do have those few that wants to make sure we got paperwork to do at the end of the shift. So I don't, like I say, outside of the couple, I can't tell you that we've got a problem, but we appreciate it. We've all these guys have, I got vendors that call me, and Dave's got vendors that call him, and Adam's got vendors that call him. And when you have that personal contact with these guys, when the vendors can call you and say, hey, my guy's running late, I'll be there in 30 minutes. We're here to make sure that, again, that voluntary compliance is what we want. So if you call us and tell us that, then we're working with these guys. But because we got enough guys around, and we got enough, I guess our public relations is such that these guys are comfortable calling us and asking questions. Well, if you don't know the answer, call us and ask us a question. Call one of us. I mean, like I say, we want to help you out. It's voluntary compliance. And if you don't know, and if it's one of them, it says it here in one way and it says it there somewhere else, just call us and ask us. And that's what we want. We want to get along with everybody. We're dealing with a couple of issues right this minute with event permits or special event permits and bonfire permits and vendor permits. So when you take 3 different permits and you have to tie them all together, it creates confusion. So we're working through that type of issues right now just with the individual companies, but some of that verbiage that we get cleaned up, and it'll make it easier for all of us. So I don't have anything else to say, except I appreciate what our guys are doing, because our guys, everybody knows me, I'm a feet in the sand guy. I do not do office chair well at all. But I get to spend quite a bit of time there. But I mean, these guys are carrying the load, they're doing the job, and it shows by the number of in compliance cases that they're working, because they're not riding up down the beach and looking at the waves splash there. These guys a lot of times are closing sometimes 30 or 40 cases a piece a day. So it's not like they're just chilling, they're out there hitting it pretty hard. So you got a question?
I do. On those vendors that repeatedly would rather take your $500 citation than follow the law, will they get a vending permit for 2018?
When we issue permits starting January, we'll issue permits based on the directions that we get down from the legal. So there's been some recommendations that'll be sent up to them on how we react when we do permits. Now, Harold Jr. and Dave and myself review all the permits and issue the permits, and Trish and Melanie handle the administrative side of that. But whether or not we'll use the term problem children, but the problem children get permits or not, that'll be a decision made somewhere at the administrative level in the FUNIAC. Anything else? South Walton Fire, Sammy Sanchez? Trip manager.
This is the part where you clap.
That's right.
Everybody's serious. No, seriously, thank you for letting me be here. Sammy Sanchez, South Walton Fire District, and the reason we are here is I oversee the bonfire permitting. First, I want to say thank you for your patience and understanding this past year. I'll tell you a brief little story. We lost our bonfire specialist back in February or March. She went somewhere to the TDC. And prior to that, we were already going to bring somebody else in to assist her with it. And when she left, we had to bring 2 people in. Well, during that time they were training, guess who got to sit up front and process bonfires? It was me. And I got to tell you, the process itself, for those that think we just kind of willy-nilly hand these things out, I beg to differ with you. I sat there, 6 o'clock at night, I was pumping these things out just because there were so many of them and I was not up to speed like these ladies are. But I can tell you that the process itself is very thorough. Name, address, firstborn, left arm, I mean, we get it all. Because if there is an issue, we want to be able to go back, and I want to be able to talk to you firsthand before Jeff shows up. That's really, I like the way I handle things, is we want to make sure that you're in compliance with what we're trying to do here. And if you get a citation from Jeff and he calls me, that's not good for you. You know, as I mentioned earlier, last year, or so far, we've processed over 2,000 bonfires. And out of those 2,000 bonfires, we've only had 1 customer that I put on the no-fly zone. Okay, so in case you're wondering what that is, he's not going to get a bonfire from me for a long time until we meet and we discuss, and then I feel he's in a good spot to get a bonfire. And we have that authority. So understand that bonfires are a privilege here in South Walton. They're not anybody's God-given right. I've heard that a couple times from folks. It's a privilege, and we should honor that privilege because we're one of the only few counties in all of Florida that allows them. Bay County just started it. I don't know how far they are, where they're at with their program, but understand that this is a rare commodity. And like Brian said earlier, we have to self-regulate before we regulate ourselves out of it. Again, we don't have a lot of issues. We are still working towards automating the bonfire process so you can sit at home or from the comfort of your office or your home and obtain a bonfire. That is coming. We're working on that. People with much higher IQ, which is not a whole lot, much higher IQ than me, are working on programs right now as we speak. It's, I guess there's a lot of work to it because there's a lot of work to put into a bonfire permit. So again, thank you for your patience and your understanding with it. And I did mention that we hired 2 customer service specialists. I brought one with me today. She's been handling most of your bonfires. Julie? This is Julie, kind of put a face with the name. I know a lot of you folks interact with her. I trust me, I catch every email, every request that she gets, I get. Every complaint that Jeff gets, I get. So it's a kind of a teamed effort here, and like it's amazing to me, to be honest with you, that the numbers are that low of out of the bonfires. So again, that's a tribute to you folks and your ability to do the right thing. I think we all want to do the right thing. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the moment, but understand if you break the law, I don't have to issue you a permit. And if you want, I'll give you that guy's name. You can call him and ask him. But anyway, again, I thank you for your patience. Occasionally, you might see my name on the bonfire permit. If that's the case, please, please, please be patient with me. Other than that, I think we'll wait till the end to take questions, or you want me to take them now?
We'll take them at the end.
Okay.
I just want to give each agency a little bit of time to share their
Absolutely.
experience.
And one more thing, I'll leave you with this. Fireworks are still illegal for some of you vendors that host big parties. I know you want to have the fireworks and the sky lanterns. That looks great on Disney cartoons, but they are still illegal in the state of Florida. They always have been. Doesn't matter where you're launching them from, they are still illegal. Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm David with South Walton Fire District, Beach Safety Director. Just want to give you my number because, like everyone else, I'd rather if you have any issues that you call me directly. So I'm going to give you out my number real quick, 850-803-2601. I can also be reached at, you can call the fire district and just ask for me. but that's my cell number. The only thing I have to report, this is the finish of our 12th season out on the beach. As you guys know, it was a busy year again. We had a record number of double red flag days. We had more red flag days than normal. And I'm proud to say that we've had 0 fatalities on the beaches. And I want to thank you guys. Yeah. You know, our guards work hard, but you guys have been a part of that too. You know, there were a couple days in June where out at Hidden Dunes, and I can think of a few other instances where some of y'all's guys have been very helpful. You've been very good about the communications through the 911 system and just communicating with our guards. We had a lot of cooperation, a lot of great help with the lost children, you know, with the Walton County Sheriff's Office, the code enforcement guys. I'm kind of rainbow and sunshine zone this year. I think it was a really great year, and I want to thank you guys. The only outstanding issues that I have at this point for those delivery vendors, emergency vehicle access points, specifically Ed Walleen, not so much at Dune Allen because it's off to the side. Just be mindful. Please don't block those or stay there. I know you're trying to get in and out of there, but it becomes kind of an issue. Murphy's Law kind of applies. We actually had that a couple times this year where someone was dropping off kayaks or chairs, and they're blocking just enough of the emergency vehicle access, and Murphy attacks, and we got a situation where we need to get onto the beach or get someone off the beach. So just be mindful of that if you're a delivery vendor. Yeah, it was a good year. So thank you all again.
Matt?
How's it going, guys? So most of you know me, Matt McGill, South Walton Turtle Watch. Basically, I'll just recap how the year went. I think we finished at 128 nest, maybe give her a few, but that's a record. Before that, it was 100. So, yeah. And I think everyone had a part in that. It was overall, I think, a pretty good year. A lot of guys worked with me really well over the season. Pretty much what I did this year is I'm all about you guys stuff, regulating too. So I try to call you guys first when I get the violations turned in and work it out with you guys. And I think it helps, have that relationship. Dealt with a few of you guys this year and it all went really smooth. You guys tend to fix it pretty quick. So I want to continue to do that. The few issues I think we had this year still were like usual. Early setups, which is still confusing to me because the texting program is pretty simple to follow. It's pretty easy. I think it's actually a benefit to you guys. And then I actually would have some of your guys telling me they don't even know about the texting program. So I'm not sure if we need to do a better job of letting the entire crews know about how to sign up and how to be on it. But I got that excuse a lot this year was I didn't even know about the texting program. So, and they could be just throwing you guys under the bus. It's just an employee going, I don't know about it. The other thing was just chairs left out, and that's usually not a big issue. It's 1 or 2 chairs that someone drags out or they get left out overnight. Usually I call you guys, let you know where they're at, and they're picked up within minutes or they're not done the next night. So I do appreciate that. There is a few vendors that I guess don't want to talk to me or don't want to handle it the way I'm trying to handle it, and I just want to let those vendors know that I'm not here to pick a fight. I'm not here to cause problems. I'm really here to help you out. I mean, many of you guys can attest that you've called me up with issues, and I pretty much have dealt with it pretty quickly and fairly. And then when you are in violation, I've always been super professional and respectful. Let's come to a solution. So the vendors who don't want to cooperate, I'd appreciate next year if you just, I really want to help you guys out. Help me out. It'll be easier that way. Let's see. Right now, we are no longer walking. So the nesting season is over. So now we're into hatching season though. So if the vendors could do me a favor, there's a lot of nests that are going to hatch. When you get out in the morning, just keep an eye out. There's going to be a chance you guys are going to find turtles up and down the beach. You're going to find them in the dunes. You might find them under your chairs. If that happens, call me. Let me know, and we'll rush someone down to get them. Also be mindful that some of these nests might be hatching. So if you are leaving some sets out overnight, at the toe of the dune or something, give some distance around the nest. Space them out a little bit. I've seen a few times where they're set right up in front of it or right next to it. Just be mindful, 20 feet away. I don't even think there's a code for that, right? At the end of the, But if on your own, you could just do it for me. That would be nice. Do you guys have any questions for me or anything you want to know at all?
We'll take questions at the end.
Okay. Other than that, it was a good season. I mean, we still got our issues, but I just mainly want to let you guys know that I've been really trying to change the culture of what Turtle Watch does, and it's not to fight with you guys. It's not to just control what you guys do. I mean, there's a very specific set of rules, and I'm only always trying to enforce these rules. So I'm just trying to make the beach a better place. I think you guys are, and I'm definitely not anti-vendor. You guys have helped us out a ton. There's a lot of good guys out there, and I appreciate what you do for me. So that's really it. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. 706-442-8998. 706-442-8998. We good?
Lieutenant, you want to add anything?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Scott Hogu. I'm one of the district commanders down here in the South End. Even though I'm currently not over beach patrol, I've worked the beach for many, many years. Our beach guys, I talked to them today. They really didn't have any complaints. The only thing that they did say is a couple of times they had to remind people about the 15-foot emergency vehicle corridor. If you can just keep those where it's not crowded, so if they have to go anywhere and come by it, they're free to go. But besides that, we've kind of pulled back a little bit from doing a lot of enforcement. We just deal with the criminal aspect. We leave the code stuff to the TDC. So besides that, we had a great year and we appreciate it. So thank you.
One last person I failed to interview or introduce earlier is Josh Irvin. He's our beach maintenance manager. He's the guy that keeps the beach clean. Josh, you want to add anything?
Good evening. As Brian stated, I'm Josh Irvin. I'm the beach maintenance manager here at the TDC. Just a few things. All in all, had a good year. Actually had a record year for our Leave No Trace removal. Ended up about 100% year over year from the amount of stuff that we got last year to the amount of stuff we got this year. So appreciate the help with that and, spreading that message. One thing I will say, kind of echoing what Lieutenant Hogenboom said, is leave that access corridor open for us. I had a couple of instances this year where we were unable to get through, I think out at Rosemary. But other than that, pretty good year. Reminder of the bonfire debris, please do not put that in our bag holders for obvious reasons. It's heavy and it's on fire. So when you introduce fire to paper, it burns. So appreciate all that you do, and if I can ever be of any assistance, I'm here for you. Thank you.
Okay, like I say, overall, we had a great year in how we do business on the beach. So I want to thank you again. I appreciate it. And like we do every year, we have opportunity to revise codes to make things better, or for I like to say for all concerned. So at this point, I'm going to open up the room, and whoever would like to speak can speak on whatever topic they would like to speak about that is, beach related. It's up. Yes, ma'am. If you like, you can talk from right there. You don't have to come out. Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's fine. Just talk loud.
Hi, I'm Desiree Gardner. I am a professional photographer. I'm probably here because of the verbal stuff that's going on.
Yes, ma'am.
To be more concise, but
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that I know that it's concerns a lot of people how many photo shoots happen at sunset. And the truth is, you're looking at a lot of people that aren't professional photographers out there. In your verbiage right now, it's a very big vendor fee for us as a business.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm happy to sit down and propose something that would work for both of us.
Okay.
But what is proposed right now, or what is being told to photographers that have been stopped by code enforcement, is confusing and difficult to understand as a business owner.
Okay.
I'm often down at the beach with just a few people. At most I'm setting down my bag. So I think having a permit fee for that is a little odd. And then when we're, shooting for a wedding, there's an event fee pulled for those, or an event permit pulled for those. So
Right.
I guess I would just like some clarity on it.
Okay.
And I would love to, help you come up with something that does both help us and you.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. So the code says if you're a vendor, if you're offering service or goods for a fee. Okay.
Right, well, that's the other thing, is that every photographer is different. So, while I think there are at least 2 other photographers in the room, yeah, there's a couple of you, okay, good. My business is set up, I'm registered in the state of Florida, and I am a service. I'm not a tangible goods person. I don't run a chair. I don't even hand my clients a USB drive. So, based on Florida statutes for business, I'm not kind of under this purview, but code enforcement doesn't really know the subtleties of that. At least that's the way that I read it. So, it is a very broad industry, and I can tell you right now, a Facebook profile does not a professional photographer make. I think there is some common ground for both of us in what the issues are. We don't want somebody climbing up on the dunes behind our shop when we're not going on the dunes, like that kind of stuff. And,
Right.
The people that are causing the issues are not the same people that are going to come to this meeting.
Okay.
So I think figuring out a way to come together is ideal.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not familiar with the Florida statute that classifies photography as not a service
It is
industry.
service versus goods. So like some photographers may offer a disc and then they become classified different.
Right.
It's
Okay.
no longer a service.
I believe that in our legal department's eyes, that if you're on the beach and you're taking a photo shoot that you're charging money for, you're providing a service for a fee. But we have a solution for this, okay? That's what I want to talk about it. So you're correct in your statement that if you're doing this in conjunction with a special event permit, and you're working under the umbrella of the special event permit, you're not required to be a permitted vendor and have to apply for that.
A lot of wedding planners would love to hear their
Well,
clarification.
okay, and Trish and Melanie are doing this, are sorting through this, because this is kind of a new thing. What has brought this about is congestion on the beach, okay? So other vendors that are doing other businesses, other services or goods, said, well, hey, why does the photographer get a free pass? And we said, gosh, you're right. They made the definition in our legal department's interpretation of offering a service for a fee, and you're correct. So if you're operating under a special event permit, not required to have your own vendor permit. However, if you are going to be doing your own photo shoots that are not associated with a special event permit, it would be appropriate for you to apply for and receive a vendor permit, recognizing that your industry is a low impact and doesn't cause much congestion. We've spoken with legal and with county commissioners about a different type of vendor permit, and it would be called a service vendor. And it would be at a lesser rate than what the equipment vendors.
My goal here is not to avoid a fee. It is to make it more reasonable for the type of industry
Right.
that we represent.
Right, so we would be looking
We'd
at,
like to see it, I mean, I can speak for myself and a lot of photographers that I know personally, it is congested, and it makes our jobs difficult too.
Yeah.
And then we have 30 minutes of that crucial photographer life.
Yeah.
We're getting stopped by code enforcement, that ruins the whole photo shoot, and those people do pay good money. And I do think there's a difference between a photographer who is leaving a trace, who's down there with a few people,
Right.
and a photographer who's hauling gear down the beach, who sets up an entire, studio on the beach. I mean, that's a different type of photographer too.
yeah.
So I'm
You know-
happy to sit down and work with you. I'm happy to volunteer my
Yeah.
time to kind of help if,
Yeah.
if that's needed.
Okay. Pick up one of my cards and give me a holler when you, sometime during the week. So the way this works, like I said before, is we take in this input. We put together a presentation for the Tourist Development Council. That meeting will be on October 3rd. Okay, and there'll be good discussion in that room. It'll be in this room here. And it'll be our Tourist Development Council, who is an advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners. And so that would be a good opportunity to say, I'm a local photographer. I understand that there's discussion about a service vendor type permit, and I think that you ought to consider it be X amount of dollars to X amount of dollars. I would.
Well, the other thing, actually, I'm not a Walton County resident. I'm a Bay County resident.
That's fine. You can-
But I do work out here, obviously. That's why I feel like this needs
Yeah,
to
there,
be
there,
worked
there.
out too.
Yeah, there's no reason.
So my other follow-up to that is that, photography as an enforceable, under difficult thing to enforce. I travel when I shoot as well. I'm a traveling photographer, so
Right.
I do often have to know what's going on in a different city, and I can tell you, I've never traveled to a city that makes a photographer just blanket to shoot anywhere in public property, pull a permit like that.
Yes, ma'am.
There are small fees to go down and shoot on beaches in California, that kind of stuff, but, you know, I look forward to seeing your service fee and the, you know, kind of how that's going to be enforced, I think is going to be crucial to this not becoming an issue for us with being
Yeah.
the point of contention, so.
Well, like I said, we have to enforce the code as it's written. You know, we enforce it uniformly and consistently. And so I understand where you're coming from. I can't, make comment on other communities, municipalities, or whatever.
Right.
All I can do is about what we do here. But we're trying to accommodate, your industry, and as in all accommodating, it has to go back and forth. So
I completely agree.
yeah.
I think
But-
it would be nice to have some sort of tag we can place on our bags so that you know not to approach us. I think there should be signs posted at the beach.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff, but.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's a perfectly viable solution, because I get it. You got a limited amount of time.
We only have on the beach a very short window, so, the tag.
I agree. Yeah. Great. Appreciate it. Good event. Yes, sir.
I want to get clarification on what you were saying regarding the full permits for the event, i.e. brides, they're having a wedding on the beach. Is that apply only to photographers, or does it apply to the musicians, officiants?
It would apply to what we call subcontractors to that special event planner. Okay?
That is very encouraging to hear you all saying
Yeah.
this, because the $750 fee is beyond ridiculous for
It is.
the type of money that we charge for
Right.
music for a wedding ceremony, or an officiant charges to
Well,
marry them.
Yeah, and we agree, and we understand. What our intent is at special events, we would like to have one person accountable, and that would be the special event permit E, okay? And we would like for that person to be a permitted vendor, and the special event planners, the wedding planners, have done a good job of understanding how our code reads and what our intent is. And it also helps by understanding that the subcontractor service providers, musicians, floral arrangement, stuff like that, underneath their umbrella, in the end, saves money on the person that they're doing the event for.
Because as I understand it, the brides they have to have a permit to go down to the beach to do their wedding. And then as it reads now, we still have to have the $750
Yes,
permit.
it is unclear for all vendors.
And
Okay.
is there a difference if they don't have a wedding planner, they're not a coordinator? Do we have to have a permit if there's not a coordinator? Do you have a permit if there is a coordinator? I mean, because not everyone has a wedding coordinator. When they come pull their permit and they plan it themselves, but they may not have a wedding coordinator. They may call me and call him, and so there's a difference.
That's where we get into a problem. And so what needs to happen is one person needs to pull the special event permit, and they need to list.
The bride, right?
Well, right. And so we have a graduated scale of permit fee for special events, recognizing recognizing that not all events have the same amount of people. There's verbiage in there that if we have not made it so that every special event has to have a permitted vendor, okay? And so but we do have verbiage in there that says if the bride and groom party has pulled a special event and they have employed a special event or wedding event planner, they have to be listed on the permit. And if they list the rest of those people on that permit, they're covered under the special event permit. So it's
special event permit that you're referring to, it has to be pulled by a wedding coordinator, not the bride.
does not have to be right now. But if the bride, so once again, our intent is to have a responsible party that understands the rules and regulations. What we were experiencing the previous years is there had been a push by wedding event planners and special event planners to have the bride pull the permit. All right, so the bride comes down, gets married, and then hauls off to the wedding honeymoon. And then we have 3, 4, sometimes 5 independent vendors that are not cleaning up the beach afterwards. And that's where what we were trying to resolve. So all code tries to correct, non-compliant or not good behavior or create a certain behavior.
Let me throw this out
Okay.
for future use in the process as it goes up the chain of command. Each of the vendors that works here, I do a large number of weddings with event coordinators, and I do a large number that it's just the bride and groom with their family. They don't pull, and guess who gets to be the coordinator without getting paid? So, I mean, we all laugh about it in our discussions, but if the vendors that want to work in Walton County come to some kind of compliance meeting, video, whatever that is, so we all know. I'm very conscientious about the beach. I love our beaches, and I want the turtles to be okay. I want the beaches to be nice for the next group. It aggravates the fire when you see people leaving diapers and cans and things on the beach. I'm that way. Everybody, but we had all the vendors were required to say, okay, we're going to do this compliance thing. You see it, so that when we go to these weddings that don't have a coordinator, that we are certified by Walton County, not so much paying $750 each, but certified so that when that bride pulls that event permit, that special event permit, that you can only have people that are certified to do what Walton County likes to do on the beaches, be covered under that, and rather than pulling in John, Joe, Harry, whatever, to come in that don't know or worse care when they leave the beach, the shape they leave the beach. Because a lot of people bring folks from back home. They don't know and
They
don't care. So that's just something I'm thinking about. Because to me, to make the amount of money that some of us vendors make really doesn't fit the $750 permit. It's prohibitive.
I agree. What do you think would be a fair price for an annual permit?
Well, to me, a permit is like $35, but this more seems, when we first heard about it, I felt like everybody was trying to charge us a tax. And we're not supposed to have a tax here, but that's something open for discussion. My main thing is wanting the vendors that do work for the weddings that don't have a wedding coordinator that knows the difference, that we've taken some kind of compliance awareness course.
Okay.
So that we at least have that certificate saying, yes, we know we're gonna take care of things. And the brides aren't allowed to use other ones if they pull a special events permit.
May I suggest?
Sure.
Okay, I don't necessarily think I don't think the point behind the permit is money. I think the point behind it is putting another step in front of somebody who is not a professional, who will not respect the beaches, like this guy said. He's right. People who don't care about the beaches aren't the people sitting in this room. So, essentially what you will do by putting up signs, by having just a small fee that covers the cost of this, to give us a tag, to give us a sign about permits, will I think regulate it enough where we will see a decrease in the congestion, which is the issue, and the people that aren't being respectful of the beaches. I wholeheartedly love where I live, and I love the beaches, and I don't allow my clients on dunes. I will stop a session to go get people off of the dunes.
Yep.
In my spare time, I do conservation photography. Like, it's not about the people in this room, it's about the people who are not going to go to the website and read the
Okay.
rules.
So what I hear is you're acceptable to a permit. You're just not sure what the exact amount would be fair to you. But you feel like it should be a nominal fee. Hang on just a second. Not talking to her. Hang on just a second. Go ahead.
I would like for it to be appropriate for the type of service that's being provided. And I'm encouraged that you said there's going to be a different one for service providers versus
Okay.
product providers.
Yes, ma'am.
If there would be a possibility to look at like even a sliding scale. So something, for instance, I'm a wedding planner, so I work with all the vendors, and I know that, I have violinists that they may make $150 for a wedding. For them, they may only book 2 or 3 weddings in Walton County on the beach for a whole year. For them to pay a large fee, they can't justify it. So what we're experiencing as planners is I have vendors that now are saying flat out no to brides
Okay. But if they can work under your special event permit,
They
that,
can for me now, but
Mhm.
the problem is those brides that are calling outside of it. So it's not a personal problem for me anymore now that we know the umbrella, and I'm
Right.
thankful for the ladies at TDC this week. They helped me so much.
Yeah.
And have been wonderful. I can't thank you ladies enough over there.
Hmm.
But with that being said, I think it's the confusion of that, but also the brides that are not booking a planner. I talked to an officiant today, 50% of his brides don't use a planner. So at this point, he has to try to justify his officiant fee, which is normally very minute.
Right.
You know, anywhere from $50 to $100, and they just can't justify it. They can't guarantee they're gonna have enough bookings in 2018, 2019 to justify it.
Mhm.
And so I think at this point, that's one of the concerns.
Mhm.
My concern as a planner is on the other side of the thing where we went from a $50 special event permit to up to now 1,000.
Mhm.
And that is such a substantial jump in price that if you speak to any bride, they can't understand it, they can't comprehend it. I had a bride that planned all from, what, I guess it was August of last year.
Mhm.
And she budgeted out for an entire thing, and now she's having to come up with an extra $1,000
Mhm.
to be able to pay for that, or
Yeah.
$950.
You know, I find that confusing, because if I was to have a wedding at one of our resort communities, it would be 4 times that.
Right.
I mean, even at Eden Park.
But that's why they're not. My bride, she knew all of this was happening, she would have meant to have on her when she got married. Because when she booked her
Okay.
wedding at the venue and was told she could get a $50 permit to go on the beach, she loves this area, and is bringing 100 guests who are gonna stay in the hotels, the buildings, they're gonna eat dinner here, they're turning it into mini vacation. And she called me in tears and said, if I'd have had any idea, we would have never gotten married in her area. We would have went to Panama City, because now I need another $1,000 and had no clue
Okay.
that she needed it.
Well, the fee was talked, discussed, brought up and discussed in the graduated scale, and it was, once again, a lot of the codes that are created or revised are based on one big problem, and that is congestion on the beach.
And I understand that. I think though that to only allow the upper class to have access to a public beach, that means our local brides cannot get married here.
No,
So
no.
I have no, but I'm telling you from an experience, I've been in business for 10 years here. I have local brides that are now having to either go to a state park or leave our county. And that is going to impact our local county and the people that live here. I live in Long County. My children go to school here. I pay taxes here. I should be able to go down to the beach for a reasonable amount. The truth is personally, I couldn't afford $1,000 just to go on the beach. And I sure couldn't afford $1,000 permit for the beach and then get down there and have beach chairs everywhere. No offense, my beach chair companies. No offense by any means. We all are working in a small vendor zone, and I totally understand that. But to a bride that can go over to a state park and pay, and they set out signs for her, and she's going to pay a couple $100 and have as many guests as she needs, and know that she's going to have access to restrooms, she's going to have a private access, where no one else is allowed to use that boardwalk at that time, and no one else is allowed to use that beach at that time. They're going to opt for that. And so it does affect our county. It does affect, I hear TDC, it's Tourist Development Council. It is to bring tourism here, not push it away. And right now, I think our biggest concern as vendors is we are seeing the long-term effects. I have brides that are going to Sarasota. I have brides that are going to other places in Florida. And we don't want to see that. We have the prettiest beaches. I'm biased. I live here. I love our beaches more than Bay County, no offense. I love Panama City Beach, but I like our beaches better. I would rather stay here. There's no reason for me to pay the cost of living here and have to move my clients to Bay County or to Okaloosa County or to state parks or Navarre.
And to touch on the tourism, photographers especially, we curate feeds on social media of these beautiful beaches, and we love our area, and we promote conservation just by showing our clients sitting on the sand and not on the dunes. And we're the people who are getting the likes and are geotagging our locations and are bringing the tourists here. We're contributing to that just by
And I
providing.
understand the congestion concern.
Yeah.
My concern with that is a wedding takes about 20 minutes, so all in all, about an hour's worth of time on the beach.
At 5
Normally,
o'clock when there's nobody.
that is exactly correct. It's normally when everybody's leaving the
How many people usually attend that type of wedding?
Typically, I have a lot of elopements, believe it or not.
How many?
Elopements. I have weddings that are somewhere around 15 to 20 people, and they are just looking for a small, affordable
What's our
option.
cost for less than 30?
$150.
It's $150 for less than 30 people.
50, so it's 3 times as much as that bride was supposed to pay. We're serving people that know it's a vacation.
But $150? I mean,
That they have rented and they've paid money believing that they have a private beach. And for the last 10 years, we've never had to pull a permit for a private beach. Over 50 people. Or under 50 people have always been allowed to.
if it's less than 30 people, it doesn't require a special event permit on private
Then why
property.
would I have to pull a permit to shoot a family on the beach if I'm not even
You
setting?
you don't have to. You don't have to if you're on private property.
If you're on the beach.
Right, one at a time, please. Was there some
It's for private and public. It is. I got that in written notice, Patricia. Private and public. Clarify
if,
that.
if you have more than 30 people, it requires a special event permit if you're on private property or public property.
As well as a vendor permit.
So if I as a photographer have a family of 10 and we walk out behind their beach house where they're staying, they don't have to have a permit, but I have to have my $750 vendor permit.
Which will soon to be a future service type vendor permit,
Which
which,
I'm totally cool with. Let me
Yeah.
come in and prove that I have liability insurance.
Right,
and I
yes.
have
You gotta get taxes.
Right.
and then I've signed all your waivers and agreed to, and understood all the rules and regulations.
Correct.
I'm 100% okay with that.
good.
The issue, again, I just heard it echoed back here, is the congestion, and I think that there are many other options to fix that versus imposing rules on people that are already running very complicated businesses on very, very broad spectrums of income with their clients and the investments their clients are making. If your issue is congestion, let's focus on enforcement and keep it not cost prohibitive for the professionals or the brides, but let's spend that money sending code enforcement out and finding people who are not registered businesses, who don't pay taxes.
We do that.
Who are out there,
We do that. We
you
did
know,
it.
Facebook page.
We do that. We did it over 9,000 times this year.
You know, and I would love to see that increase because
Yeah.
the congestion is still there.
That's true, but we're running into the issue, and I'm just gonna speak it because I've heard it. I've heard planners from out of the area. I've heard guests from out of the area. I've heard photographers from out of the area. Well, how are they gonna enforce anything on me when I come to work?
And one photographer did call one of the offices and was told that that would not be enforceable. The photographer, just like how I'm a service, my business is registered out of my address, which is Bay County, Florida. Okay, so I come here, I'm not technically doing business in here. I'm providing a service on your beach, but my business and the money collection, anything like that, is not taking place in your county. So, you know, there's such a huge difference between me and her even, that I think coming up with a system that works for all of us is imperative. you know?
Actually, I think you're beating up semantics. But
Well, yes, it's very-
the way it'll happen is you'll be encountered on the beach, and if you're offering a service for a fee that's identifiable, and you're out of the permit, out of the compliant range, our officers will take some action on you. But I think we're trying to solve your problem.
Well,
I
right,
mean,
but I don't think it's just my problem, it's also her problem. It's also
well,
the-
her problem is that she don't want to pay $150 fee to use the beach.
I don't
And I don't think that's, but once again, but hold up, once again, let me explain again, okay? It's not just the 15-person wedding that we're talking about. What we're actually experiencing over the last 2 or 3 years was the welcome to the beach party on Thursday night, the wedding rehearsal dinner on the beach that, we're talking, 50 to 100 people, and then the wedding party that had a wedding at sunset and a bonfire after sunset, and copious amounts of alcoholic beverages until 10 p.m., that the beaches are also used by other people. So we had to rein in what was originally a processing fee into a use fee in order to...
For the after hours, I guess, I'll be honest, personally, I've never held a reception on the beach because, to be honest, it's not something I would like to do as a vendor. And there's
Good.
other vendors out there that want to do that. But I don't feel that the ceremony only should be affected based on
But-
that's
but-
outside of the beach.
But it's not a handful of other vendors. We were experiencing it on every one of our beach accesses that is a permittable beach access. And the other problems is that we have 7 regional beach accesses that have parking and restroom facilities. The rest of them are called neighborhood beach accesses, where we were having a lot of our weddings held at. And the problems that were being created were no parking, because there's no parking available. A lot of times, these neighborhood beach accesses access the beach in between private property, and on each side of it, it's private property. In some cases, there is a very different amounts of public beach. But all those issues were creating problems not only on the beach, but within the neighborhoods that they're happening. And so what was a processing fee was turned into a use fee with the idea that we have to rein in what we're doing. And we recognized that it was going to eliminate some weddings happening on Walton County beaches. But the simple fact is
That's okay for Walton County beaches, but I don't hear how that is okay for private beaches.
okay, if
So
you,
a house, for instance, or a venue, I don't understand the special exceptions that are being taken place for Rosemary, for Watercolor, for Seaside because of the money. It's not fair, it's not equality. It's not right that they are getting special privileges that other private residences that have held venue services for the beach.
but each one of those places you mentioned have commercial entitlements.
But if you're looking at congestion, they're the majority
They're
of
the
all the
one
way.
with congestion.
But it's on their private.
You're worried about congestion on the beach.
Right, but it actually, we don't have much issue with the weddings on resort community beaches because,
So they don't have problems, then they get the lower fee?
no, because they have commercial entitlements.
That
That-
doesn't have an answer to the actual problem of congestion and parking, and you're talking about charging a usage fee because you wanted to eliminate parking. You're still allowing permits for houses to have, weddings or events or whatever, and they still might not have parking plans in place. All you ask is, do you have a plan? Yeah, we're gonna shovel. You're not
We actually-
preventing the problems of that parking.
We actually do, and we will not issue a permit until we have all the required information, and one of it is a viable parking plan. So if somebody says, I want to park people at such and such, okay, well, let's check all this out and see. But we actually do review all that information, and we issue permits based on receipt of accurate information.
So back to the big resorts allowed to have as many as they want, as many people as they want, for $1,000 for the year.
Yes, ma'am?
I agree, I don't think that's fair.
Do you understand the concept of commercial entitlement?
I don't care if it's commercial, I'm talking
What?
about the beach.
But it's,
You're
but,
worried about
but,
congestion on the beach.
but that's, we're worried about congestion on public beaches. So we're primarily talking about permits, special event permits for public beaches. To be quite honest with you, we have very little issue with special events that are held on resort communities because one is they own the beach, they have the special event, coordinator, and they have their own security, and they typically have their own, everything, and they do it.
So it's
Like
the public beach accesses that you've got the issue of congestion?
public beach accesses is where we receive most of the problems. If it's a special event problem, they're typically around a public beach access.
So maybe we can address that as having a certain.
Are they also typically, the ones that you're having issues with, typically do not have a planner, am I correct?
In the past, planners were not forced to be a permitted vendor. As we have ramped up our code enforcement effort based on chaos on the beach, we started identifying areas in the code. As you know, we took over special event permitting, and so we started researching areas of the code that weren't being enforced correctly and started enforcing them correctly. And so the whole reason for all this is to, once again, handle the congestion we have and make it harmonious for everybody on the beach, okay? So keep in mind, at a public beach access, you're not the only person at that beach using that beach for that purpose.
The goal is to educate the people that are coming here to host these events. I implore you to lower the cost and make education your goal versus just lowering the number through money. Okay, because we are the people who have the guests coming from out of town, and we're the ones educating them on how to be respectful of the beaches, because we're the ones walking down there with them.
Well, and we're the ones that are gonna be compliant. So I'm the one that's not going to rely on my permit to get a lower rate. The bride that's booking in Alabama, that's gonna come here for one time, and she doesn't honestly care, so she's gonna destroy venues, and this is why venues have kind of pushed into having a coordinator there. I get that, because at the end of the day, I'm kind of like a policeman for the ride.
Yeah. Would you support that only special event permits can be issued to Walton County permitted vendors?
I think that would be incredibly difficult to enforce.
I do agree that.
You require a bond.
You know, if a photographer is approached on the beach, all they have to say is, I'm not getting paid for this. Because anybody can walk into Best Buy, take a camera out, and start a Facebook page. So we have code enforcement walking up to people who are not following rules, who are not registered business people, who are not providing taxes to the industry that they're working in and collecting money in. You know, you have those people being affected when they're the people that you want on your side.
And
You
it is
know,
funny, I don't see any.
The guy in the blue and white shirt behind the pretty patient.
right,
Part-
that too.
Nannies being implemented.
Do what now?
Nannies, like.
I didn't
like,
plan to
like,
get
like,
nannies.
like,
Hold up, one at a time. I didn't understand what you said.
Nannies, like as far as childcare goes.
Okay.
They offer their services on the beach to come and babysit your children while you go to the beach.
I didn't know they had that service here. Jesus Christ. Okay, we'll write that down, nanny service. Sir in the plaid shirt. Sir in the plaid shirt. I know your hand's getting tired.
A problem for me would be the true set of times. My mom and dad, they own the houses that I work at, and I was told to apply for a business permit. They're in compliance, and I've been educated. But I have to work 2 jobs to support my family. I'm about to have to say bye to my other job because the sunrise is at 6:30 instead of 5, like it was during the turtle season, or the summer season, right? I can't set up till 7:30. That puts me going to my full-time job at 8:30, 9 o'clock, you know, because set up time is 7:30 now. My first morning was this morning. I'm okay with that, but I talked to my boss, you know, he's not okay with it. You know, I know most people out here, this is what they do, and this is all they do. I work for my family, so I do multiple things. You know, they have 3 beach houses and they're on the beach, you know. But, you know, that's my biggest issue. Now I'm gonna have to say goodbye to a full-time job year-round, so I can keep my summertime job.
Okay, so what your suggestion is we have a different start time in the after turtle season?
I understand the start time is an hour after sunrise, but, you know, sunrise is later now than it was during the summer, you know. During the summer, I had no problem because the Turtle Wax program sent me a text at 5:30.
Right.
I set up at 6, I'm done by 7.
Okay,
It was never an issue then, but now it is because, you know, time's changing.
right. So what your suggestion is that we have a different start time?
Just for this time of the season.
Right, okay. Perfectly good request. I've actually had that a couple other times today by vendors calling in and previously in the week. So that'll be an item that'll be on there that we'll say we've gotten some feedback that time ought to be adjusted after the turtle season or after the turtle group stops texting, and ask for consideration for it. Yes, sir, in the yellow shirt.
Is there a reason for us to wait until 7:30, an hour after sunrise to set up?
Because the code has specific verbiage. I mean,
Obviously, whoever wrote the code does not do what we do.
wait a second now. As public citizens, we all have the right to petition our decision makers to create or revise code, and that's what we're doing tonight. So we don't need to make derogatory comments about people who make those decisions. Yes, sir.
Why is it official sunrise? Why not astronomical sunrise?
What is the difference?
Astronomical sunrise is whenever you can't see stars anymore.
basically like when the sea turtle people were clearing, you know, adding two and two together, you know, that was around that time, you know, as the sun was coming up. 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun's up. So
Is-
we're waiting an hour and a half after the sun comes up.
Is astronomical sunrise published data by a credible agency?
Yes, sir. There's an app for it actually on Google and everything.
For astronomical sunrise or for sunrise?
Astronomical, nautical, and official sunrise.
Okay.
There's about 7 different sunrises too, though, so which one you want to pick?
Okay.
They're making us all official.
I think I get your point, but I'm guessing or assuming that you're probably not affected during the time that Turtle Watch does their texting program. Okay? And so when you're affected is when they're not texting. And so we've already had a request to, let's consider a earlier start time than the 1 hour after sunrise. So I think that kind of encompasses that.
Well, I'm trying to understand why it's made official, like, why does it have to be the official sunrise? Like, what made y'all decide that it needed to be that?
I'll be quite honest with you, I didn't realize there was a astronomical sunrise, or I didn't know there were 7 different sunrises. I'm not being funny, really. What I did know is that there are published data by weather services or whatever that have a, you know, what's considered sunrise for this geographical location. And so we have to have something that we can have as a record that says that's when the official sunrise was on any given day. So in the event that, you know, we're challenged on a citation or in the field or whatever. I mean, that's why it is. You know, it can't be subjective as, man, I can see the sun, or I can see my card, or I can see whatever. It has to be something that is official published data. But I think that
What happens in that hour from the time the sun comes up, which actually comes up before that, but what happens from the time it actually physically rises, what's going on in that hour that we shouldn't be able to put out chairs and umbrellas? I mean, when I go out there in that hour, there's nobody out there. It's like basically, and the whole thing is then the people that do come out are the kids, the ones with little kids, they wake up at 6 o'clock and all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I've had enough, let's go out to the beach.
Yeah.
My chairs and umbrellas. I have to tell them, you gotta wait another 30 minutes.
I'll be quite honest. I'll be quite honest with you. I'm not sure why there is that waiting period, but I hear what you're saying. Is that we would like an earlier start time. Okay, so we'll include that in the information that moves forward. That there needs to be consideration for an earlier start time in the period of time that Turtle Watch is not monitoring the beach.
Inlet Beach.
Richard.
My name is Rich Jack. I'm the president of the Historic Inlet Beach Neighborhood Association. And I have a couple of requests of you folks. I walk on that beach every morning. I usually walk on the beach in the afternoon as well. And my request would be, that since I would guess that most of you are owners or managers of the vending companies, that you make sure that you disseminate to your crews some of the smaller regulations that are part of the permitting process. And in particular, and Brian, Jay, and I have had these conversations before. When I walk on the beach in the mornings, I pick up bags and bags of garbage. Many times, plastic bottles, the plastic, the papers, all the crap that we find on the beach is right around where your guys are setting up chairs and umbrellas. And I have spoken to a number of the guys on occasion about, hey, do me a favor, when this stuff is right there, it is required that you pick up within 100 feet of your sets, any direction. Most of the guys probably don't know that. Some of them have been very agreeable, very polite about it. One in particular looked at me and grinned and pointed at the trash guy who was coming down, taking the bags out. He goes, I don't do it because that's his job. It's not. It's your job, it's our jobs, it's everybody who uses and enjoys and appreciates those beaches. So if you would, please, disseminate the information to your troops, your boots on the sand, or your flip-flops in the sand, as the case may be. And explain to them that it's their responsibility as well as setting up the chairs, or it's on the way to the chairs. Just help everybody who cares about the beaches and loves those beaches and pick it up. One of the other issues that we have noticed through the season, and generally speaking, realistically, I have to agree with these guys. It's been a great season. But one of the issues that has become kind of a growing concern for the food vendors down there has been the use of, at least to me, wooden skewers. They are frequently left on the beach. And if you haven't run into those things, they can do damage to your feet. A lot of people on the beach in bare feet. We are talking skewers that are about 18 inches long, and they're usually pointed at the end. Sometimes they've been charred in the fires, and they end up all through the sand. So I would ask in particular of the food vendors that you all, as much as possible, emphasize to your folks, and it may sound really like nitpicky, but know how many of those damn things you put out, and try and account for them coming back in, because people will get injured on those. And shy of that, I want to thank you. Inlet Beach, yeah, it's been a season, but it certainly has been very different from past years, and it's getting much, much better.
Good. Appreciate it,
Thanks
Richard.
much to the enforcement guys. They've been great.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask about when we had the state of emergency declared a week or two ago, and we were told, all the permanent vendors were told it was mandatory that we had to remove every stick of equipment, every box, everything, and then it ended up kind of being a non-event. Like it was, that was a really expensive endeavor. And then they gave us 2 days even to bring it all back, and there's vendors like myself that has about 20 loads of equipment. I have one truck, I have one permit, one contract, so I'm only permitted one truck, even if I had a second truck, you guys won't let me use it. So I had one truck to make 20 trips up and down 5 miles of beach in 2 days. I couldn't bring out about 70 or about 30% of my equipment, couldn't bring it back out. I didn't have enough time. So I feel like there's a problem there that needs to be addressed somehow.
Okay. The code, as you know, the code requires that if the county declares a state of emergency, it says that we have 24 hours to get our stuff off the beach. You familiar with that? Yeah. Okay.
Brian, if I may, the governor declared that. It wasn't Walton County. We just followed up. But it was declared by the governor of the state of Florida. Because we had 16 million people evacuating this hurricane that was the size of Texas. So I understand, and I don't get into that. I just want to clarify on the state of emergency. That came from the governor's office.
Yeah. So anyway, in the code.
There's one of the code that is written that says that once that state of emergency is declared, that then we have to remove every single thing, and it's the time frame that we're given to do it. Leading up to it, you guys did give us, 4 days or something. That was great.
Mhm.
Coming back out, I only had 2. Again, one permit, one truck. It was physically impossible to do. Working around the clock, I could only work so many hours in a day.
Okay. So it was a problem getting equipment back on the beach, but not getting it off the beach.
You gave us, there was 4 days total that we were permitted to remove.
Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. You need a little more time to get product back on the beach.
Well, and I guess what I'm saying, could it not be done by the amount of equipment that you have? You give an extra time.
I guess there's different solutions to that. The other thing we have to juggle is that giving vendors access to the beach, we get other groups that use the beach don't like it at all in a couple of ways. Some people don't like it environmentally. As you know, a lot of the beach is owned to the main high water line, and therefore it means crossing private property. As I'm sure you're familiar with the last couple of years and the people exercising their private property rights. And so we have to be very careful how we do that. And there needs to be a discussion of how can vendors get equipment on and off the beach in the most efficient way and also the most environmentally and acceptable way to all the other people that are involved with the beach. See what I'm saying? All right. Jeff had something to say.
I think the vehicle usage, I'm not sure where that conversation happened, but we didn't restrict the number of vehicles that anybody could use.
The way that my permit is written, the vendor permitting process, it says per contract you're allowed 1 vehicle. I have a lot of equipment for my one contract, but I don't have one contract.
That's loading and unloading pre-season, postseason, but not during a state of emergency.
So you guys will allow.
There's no restriction on the number of vehicles during a state of emergency.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I think that, basically part of his thing, or what my whole deal is that it was a state of emergency, but the ordinance needs to basically reflect the situation, because there was no use in taking anything off the beach with a 40-mile-an-hour north wind and seas that were gonna be 9 to 11 feet whenever we had the storm just before that, but they were 14 to 16 coming from the south, and we didn't have to move it then. I mean, in other words, it's, something needs to be written to where somebody can look at it and say, is it necessary to remove this thing, just instead of, it's a state of emergency, everybody take their stuff off, even though we got 300 feet of beach out there, and all we're gonna get is a little north wind.
I agree, and we're going to look at that to see if there is some room to assess either different types of conditions or something like that. Because I agree with you. You know, we actually removed all of our stuff off the beach, which is about 500 garbage collection stations and all the signage and all that. And it was very labor intensive, which we didn't have to do it, but we had to. But I hear what you're saying, and that will be addressed. Hang on just one second. Josh Irvin has something to say.
I just want to add something kind of along those lines. We have discussed using the newly adopted surge, wash, and warning as that trigger point. So that's something that we may start looking at with future plans as far as incorporating that as a trigger instead of actual local state of emergency. So we are thinking about that. We have a lot of people to get off the beach. It took us about 24 hours total to get it off and get it back on. That's for 24 people. So as you can imagine, we suffer the same consequences of having to do that. So I just wanted to add that out.
Thanks, Josh. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to know how you are going to handle the bride that pays $150, $200 to have a wedding on the beach, but decides to bring her family down to officiate, to be the photographer, to be the musician, to hand out food. How are you going to enforce that her family is aware of the requirements that we all have to be aware of as service people in this industry?
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I would like to know exactly where this permit money is going, whether it be $750, $500, $1,000, whatever we have to pay, the brides have to pay. I'd like to know where the money is going in Walton County, and do we, as people paying for the vendor, have access to the financial records showing at the end of the year where this money was allocated to Walton County?
Okay. Answer to your first question is we've attempted to make it so that if you're going to have in a special event on Walton County beaches, you have to be a permitted vendor. Last year, the BCC was not ready to adopt that. Okay.
You're telling the bride this, that she has to hire a permitted vendor,
Well-
How do you know that, is code enforcement going to go to her on the beach and ask her
Yes, ma'am.
father?
Yes, ma'am. If we roll up on a special event on the beach, we get out and talk to them. Because there's other things that are usually could be non-compliant that we would need to observe. But yes, that's part of our mission or our work on the beach is proactive enforcement of beach-related codes.
Do you make her aware of that when she's applying for her permits?
Right now, we have in the code that says if you are hiring an event planner, that person has to be listed on the beach. On the permit. I know.
About if the bride is not hiring an event planner, she's not hiring
Right.
any professional.
And like I said, the county has not made the decision to require that people that are doing special events on the beach be a Walton County permitted vendor. Okay? If you are a company in Walton County that is offering a service for a fee, you meet the definition of a vendor and therefore are required to have a permit. If you are, hang on just a second. If you are a bride that has come to our beaches and has your family doing all this stuff for you, we would assume that it's all being done pro bono. Okay? And therefore you're not meeting the definition of a vendor.
So the difference, the only difference there is when they're telling code enforcement, when code enforcement rolls up on them when they're already having their
If we roll up on you and you're taking pictures for your family, you'll get a good day from us. If it's obvious to us that you're taking a picture of another family, you're off into service for a fee.
But all I have to do is say, I'm not being paid.
And all we have to do is discern if you're telling us the truth or not.
It's the people that come here there's people that come here and just live for a couple
That's
months
the
and
issue.
go photo shoots and then leave and go back to Tennessee. I've friends live in Nashville for 2 months because
Yes,
they
ma'am.
don't do that.
Yes, ma'am. And if we, like I say, it takes a lot of
Extended vacation.
it takes a lot of officer discernment on the beach when we're dealing with people to figure out if they're telling us the truth or not.
Well, I'm
But
happy to sit down with somebody and help them come up with a better plan, because that's obviously not working for us. You know, I mean, if we're getting approached and the person down the street, the person 2 families down lies to you, they're getting paid, they're not a registered business, they don't have liability insurance, and they are putting trash on your beaches. And you walk up to them and you say, are you providing a service? And they're like, oh, no, sir, this is my family, I'm their cousin. You know, and that person gets away with it just because your officer can't discern whether or not they're...
But you're not giving our officers much credit for how they do their job.
I'm also saying that
But-
you're talking about a beach that you said has a ton of congestion.
Right.
Why would we focus on one person with 5 people for a family?
We don't
You can walk down to another bigger
we don't focus on one person. We identify what appears to be non-compliant behavior and we address it.
Ma'am, our guys, I take this personal, and maybe I shouldn't, but I've been in the business since 1994. We got 2 guys who are retired, 1 state trooper, 2 guys retired deputies. People lie to us every day. So here's the action we take. If we feel like you're being honest with us, then we are just as professional as we can be, and we're going to drive away and say, have a good day. But when we think that you're lying to us, then we're going to write you a ticket, and we're going to let the judge in the Funiac Springs decide if you lied or if you didn't. So as respectfully as I know how to say it, the rules are there for the betterment of the community. If you want to be a part of the solution, then we appreciate that and we want that. But to insinuate that our guys just somebody lies to them and they drive off and that's what we do, I had a guy in court yesterday for that exact thing, and the judge found in his favor and told the lady. So I mean,
But I will say that, you know, that's not, I wasn't meaning to attack your profession. It was more, you guys do have a lot of volume out there. And there are professional looking cameras that you can walk into Best Buy and purchase, okay? And where I am a completely legal business and I'm in my crucial 30 minutes that I have with my family or my couple or my bride and groom, I'm being approached by code enforcement and stopping my flow with my client, losing 10 minutes of my 30 minutes of light. Even if I am compliant, that's an issue for me. That affects my client experience. That affects my review. That affects whether or not they're going to come back to me next year.
How often does that happen to you?
I have been stopped by not code enforcement, but a community guy, a security guard, and it was not pleasant for my clients. We were compliant. They were on property. They rented a house. We didn't drive to Rosemary, so we were fine. But I do know in our professional groups, people are being stopped by code enforcement. Professional businesses, and it affects our business. You know, and again, coming up just on the beach, I know that that's your job, and I understand what you're trying to do, and I agree with educating every person that walks onto our beaches, but I don't think that this is the way to go about that solution.
And I understand that completely. I really do. So give me a call later in the week, and we'll hash out the minor details of your business plan. Yes, ma'am.
I also relate to an issue with timing. So this is something that I am a permitted vendor. I have my permit. I am happy to comply with the current needs now.
Yes, ma'am.
What my concern is what I experienced last October personally at my wedding.
Okay.
I had, and I don't know the gentleman's name, I had a code enforcement officer pull up directly behind our chairs and block the aisle.
Okay.
For bride last October. Her wedding started 30 minutes late due to that. I was not down on the beach at that moment. I was with the bride inside her home in Green. When I walked out, I was informed at that point they needed the permit. That was not a problem.
Okay, we actually have established, and I can't comment on this particular instance, but I have a standing rule that I, make sure that everybody understands is we do not stop a wedding and we do not interfere with a wedding. And so now, not that there may be minor mishaps or difference of opinion of where the appropriate place to stop the vehicle was, but Jeff, we have a in-service training meeting every week, and we'll discuss that particular issue. It's already been discussed before, but
Like she had mentioned a tag on her back, I would love even just a sign I can put in the stand
But-
that says we're permitted.
well, once again, the special event permits, since we now do it in office, and the goal is so that our guys know before they even get there what is going to be going on. Okay, and so there's already a mechanism for that. I agree with you. If you had something on your thing that shows I'm a permitted vendor, just like an old press card that the press used to carry, that would be a good thing. But because once again, we are sympathetic to what you're doing on the beach, but we also have to regulate the beach for all concerned.
And I don't have any problem with that, especially if, but it's for the ones of us that have done everything we're supposed to do, and then it affects something like
That's why I asked you, would you support a code that said if you're having a special event on Walton County public beaches, you have to be a permitted special event?
I mean, I think somebody needs to.
No, there's some that only have like 40, 50 people wedding.
Post a bond, make a post a bond if they're not a vendor.
That is a solution there. Yes, sir, you've had your hand for a while.
Yeah, okay, so a little bit new to this, a lot of people trying to prepare it. I was a little bit curious to know the genesis of how we got $750, or it was $500, both of which I think are ridiculous. I'm sure they go to paying different people to do
Yeah.
jobs and so on and
Yeah.
so forth. And also, I'm not entirely sure that she got her answer.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't answer your question. All permit fees and go to the Walton County General Fund. And so that's the general revenue account that catches money. And all that is available by request for records process. And so you can get a copy of their, I guess what would be a actual expense report. I'm not sure exactly sure what the report would be called, but I call them actual expense report. And, pardon me? It's an ongoing document. I'm assuming that they produce reports every month. Now, what I'm talking about is a general income account for Walton County. And that would be done through Walton County Legal Department. Genera Roop is the handler of requests for records. Yes, ma'am. All right, so did I answer your question? Okay, so the $750 fee came up because we recognized that the former $50 fee was nothing more than a processing fee. And it was established when the weddings were exactly what some people have talked about, and that is a small family wedding that lasts 15 to 20 minutes and may include a small arbor and a couple of chairs, possibly some sort of rug or whatever that is the main aisle. But over the years, I started in 2014. When I got here, we were having weddings that were 100 plus people, monopolizing the beach. That was at regional beach accesses. At our neighborhood beach accesses, cars parked in people's front yards, going over onto private property, more than the 20-minute, let's go down and get married in front of the sunset. It was, in one case, we had an event that had a stove on the oven, or on the beach. And when asked what that was for, it says to bake bread. And so at some point, we have to recognize that the beach is a venue for a lot of different activities, and we have got to the point where we have to regulate. So it became a usage fee that would be somewhat comparable to the other venues in our area. And if you compare it to other venues in our area, it is really a lot less.
But we're also making a lot less money with those venues.
I understand that we've got like a wedding issue kind of overarching.
Right.
He's talking about the vendor fee.
Right, I'm more of, the vendor fee area, is, shared rental and so on and so forth. And I would say that there's clearly, there's multiple groups, obviously, and then within that, some are much larger than others, and their amount of equipment they're able to put out, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's a guaranteed amount that they can get, depending on the vendor, right?
It's a $750 fee
For like a beach chair company, they
Right.
can make that back quickly.
Right. Well, yeah, it was like, Steve might have 300 chairs,
Mm-hmm.
I might have 10.
Right.
So to speak, but I still pay $750.
Right.
So that was just my question, is the purchase trying to figure out how we got all
Well,
that 750, and it sounds like
I thought,
more or less we got to pick a number and, keep everybody from doing it, so we pick
I think you're correct in your assumption there, is because there was some talk about moratorium on beach vendor permits and stuff like that. I don't think the county was ready to bite off on that. And so, increased fee would, I don't want to say weed out the less than desirable vendors, but we were having issues with people that were, exploiting a public resource, and it was an attempt to make it a fee that would keep bona fide business people that want to use the public resource in a respectable manner. Yes, sir.
Mr. Gillenberger, as a vendor, I have to go to a spring meeting again and have to sign in and be trained and all that, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I enter into a contract with the county and the TDC to be a vendor.
Correct.
My fees are set, I pay my fees, I check off all the little boxes, I do all my paperwork, and then midway of the season, the rules change to the game. What is the TDC going to do to help protect us vendors who do everything that we're supposed to do to be able to maintain doing business the way we agreed to do business with the county? And you know exactly what I'm referring to, and that's
I do.
the D8, Open Property Owner Permission, that changed in the middle of the season.
I do. And I don't have an answer to that. And I don't know of any other industries that offer that same guarantee.
Offer the same guarantee as entering into a contract and that contract continuing?
Well, you have a contract to do business on the beach. All right. Other industries are subject to code changes or code revisions at any time. The housing industry, codes change, at different times of the year. They don't work on calendar year or fiscal years or anything. And so they are then subject to changes in what would be their final product. So that's what I meant by is I don't think any other industry can offer guarantee on a municipal code change.
But you're not going to change my vendor fee in the middle of the year, are you?
No, sir. I don't believe we would. That is usually done through a process like this, and then it is done prior to the next year, effective with that next year.
So you would have like discussions and meetings before any changes, but I don't think that happened with that specific.
That is our TDC meeting where we will present the information that we have garnered from this meeting, our data that we have collected throughout the year, the two other advisory committee meetings that offer input, and then that goes to the TDC, Tourist Development Council. It's an advisory board to the Board of County Commissioners.
I was trying to get a timeline.
Yeah, so October 3rd.
So between now and October 3rd, we need to come up with what we want, or what?
I actually have people taking notes tonight that have taken in the information that we have been presenting. And all that will be compiled, and it will be presented to the Tourist Development Council for their consideration to offer recommendation to BCC. So their recommendation could be to accept it or not accept it, and it will carry forward with their recommendation. See what I'm saying?
I'm just trying to figure out how we influence that or how we become part of
You come to the Tourist Development Council meeting, and as the presentation is going on, they will ask for me to present it to them. And it acts like any other board does. They will have discussion amongst themselves and motions on maybe certain parts of it, or they may wait for me to complete the whole thing and do a motion on the whole thing. If the motion gets a second, they then open it up for public discussion, and then they, at one point, they'll call questions and they'll vote on it. And that vote will then it'll go forward with either a approve or disapprove vote. So all information moves forward. It moves forward with their recommendation.
So are you saying we
All
have
right.
to go to the TDC meeting?
I highly encourage you to come to the TDC meeting to
Is that the October 3rd?
October 3rd.
Okay. Can I make a recommendation?
Yes, ma'am.
Because, you got so many different various groups here, but like the wedding industry, because I think it'd be crazy for you to have to meet with the photographers and the sandcastle builders and the, whatever. I mean, to be honest, I rent a beach house. I don't even have that concern, but I have to inform the people, if they're brides in my house, what the rules are and stuff. But-
Yes, ma'am.
So my point is maybe we could get a bunch of wedding people together that represent those different industries to meet one time with you before that TDC meeting.
You can, but I'd like for you to do it at our September 26th Beach Management Committee meeting. And the Beach Management Committee meeting is an advisory committee that meets every other month on the,
It's called what? I'm sorry?
it's called the Beach Management Committee. And they meet every odd month on the, right. This one is a special meeting because we had to change it because of the hurricane. But that's where we take input throughout the whole year. Now, I'm open to discussion at any time between now and then. My office, you can get my card, call me, and hang on a second, Sherry. And we can talk about it individually if you would like to get a group of people together and come by my office.
And I'll try to do that. Because the problem is, I'm a TDC person because we have bed tax.
Yes, ma'am.
But the wedding people don't relate to the TDC. They don't go to the TDC meetings. I don't even go to the TDC meetings. And I never knew that as a renter of a beach house that I was involved in this beach vendor along with beach chairs and dog permits. I mean, so that's why a lot of these people don't come to these meetings. They don't know that they're supposed to be involved with this. So it's, it's very
Right.
difficult for them as well as you guys to have all these different industries.
Yeah.
But I will try to coordinate a bunch of people and we'll try to get together and maybe help come up with some resolutions.
That's why I've tried to get all the wedding and special event planners as permitted vendors so that they'll be on our distribution list and they'll know when our meetings are.
But like she said, you got a lot of people that don't use.
Well, and I'm not even
We-
a Walton County resident, but this affects photographers in Bay County.
But if you were a permitted vendor, you know everything we're doing.
You're right, but at this point.
Not
like,
necessarily.
not to mention, but I'm here because I love our beaches, I love where we live, and I hate seeing people mistreat our area. And a lot of that is groups that I see on the beach. I totally support what you guys do to prevent, erosion and misuse of our beautiful area.
Okay?
I just think we're missing each other in the process, and
I don't think we are.
okay, well, that's good.
Okay. All right, hang on a second. Laurie had a question. Yes.
Could you just clarify the event or the change that occurred and without notice that he referred to?
Yes, there was a interpretation of paragraph D8 in the 2260, which is the beach vending section. All right, so chapter 22 is waterways and beaches. 2260 governs beach vending. There's paragraph D8 that says if you are vending on public beach that is seaward and contiguous to private property, then you have to have the Upland Properties written authorization to vend on that beach. It works. It works good where we have vendor zones. Where we don't have vendor zones, actually, it doesn't work on the beaches that we have that has been deeded public beach. That particular verbiage was inserted into the code when we did the beach renourishment project on the western end of the beach that established an erosion control line. And it was done or was inserted to offer comfort to the beachfront owners that now we're going to have public beach in front of their property. So there was a interpretation of it that the way it reads and the way that we had been regulating it was that it said that you had to have upland properties written authorization to vend. And so to us, that said that if you, as an individual vendor, wanted to vend on that section of beach, you had to gain the written authorization. So by written definition, that upland property owner had the right to say who was vending on that beach by the ability to give authorization. It was interpreted that the way the code was written is that you can either have vending or not have vending. You can't say who can vend. And that's the change that Ted is referring to. Yes, ma'am.
I have one question that I guess just pertains to me. I am a wedding vendor and I hold larger weddings. I don't hold receptions on the beach, but just ceremony only. And they do fall into a larger category of 100 to 200 plus people, so it does take a little bit more time and a little bit more use and sharing. I also do it, pay a contract fee to do this on private property.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's not, I don't use any of the public accesses. And, before, I've been doing this for years, I would work under the beach vendor permit of the chairs and umbrella people. Now I have my own beach vending permit.
Okay.
My question is that going to assure me that I will be updated on any permit increases?
Yes, ma'am.
Because this year, I suffered approximately $11,000 loss when I had to go back and get permits, full special event permits, and $1,000 rent.
Yes, ma'am. If you're a registered or permitted beach vendor, you're included in our database, and if you have given us accurate information, email addresses and all that, you will get any updates that we have. Now, permit fees are changed by BCC resolution, which requires a meeting and for them to have a decision. And all that would be advertised ahead of time. We would make sure that all permitted beach vendors get proper notice that there's going to be this discussion and possible decision by the Board of County Commissioners.
Sure. Well, I appreciate all that information. I went through probably 6 months of email communication and I didn't receive any notice. I wasn't a registered beach vendor. I had a contract through another beach vendor and wasn't notified. And honestly, I don't regularly read the paper or anything. So I was really caught off guard by the increase, which I absorbed. And I asked several other vendors that they didn't know about it either. A lot of vendors went back and got it from their brides. I was in a position where I didn't feel like that was appropriate.
Yes, ma'am.
To ask, I book out 18 months in advance for these ladies. And
Right.
they are contracted. I give them a price up front. This is what it's going to cost. This is the services you're going to provide. As a business owner, I didn't feel it was fair to go back and say, oh, by the way, you owe $1,000, which is fine. I'm happy. I was fortunate enough to be able to cover that.
Yes, ma'am.
I just don't want to do it again.
Brian, for the interest of the crowd, and correct me if I'm wrong, her situation was that she had people scheduled but was waiting until closer to time to get them.
I understand.
That happened to me as well.
Right. I understand.
I never had a full permit before because I was on private property. And when the rule changed that if anything over 50 people, public or private, you had to get a permit.
Yes, ma'am.
So before the new changes, I was on private property. I paid my contract fee to the person that ran that contracted beach. Everything was good. I worked under his permit. It was not a non-issue. And then I believe the rule changed that it didn't matter if you were on public or private if it was over 50 people.
Yes, ma'am. I understand, and we are,
I mean, $11,000 was a considerable amount for me.
Yes, ma'am. I understand that. I do understand that, and I guess there could have been a mechanism put in there, but the people that were in the discussions prior to the decision, and we had, I think we had 5 different meetings before the BCC made these decisions. And anytime in there was never a discussion about a grandfathering of permits that had already been issued. Okay? And now, if you already had a special event permit,
I never had to get a special event
okay.
permit if it was on private property. That's where I fell through the cracks, you know, because before, I had a contract with that beach owner, and he had a beach permit, and he said, oh, you don't need a permit, you don't need a full permit, you're working under my permit, you know, it's happening, you know, you're just doing ceremony only, so, you know, we have a permit to put this beach years out, you're not ever going over that amount, you're done, you know, before sundown, I'm not using lights, I'm not using anything like that.
Okay.
But now I'm required to get a special event permit in addition to paying my contracted price to the owner of that beach. So, I mean, I'm fine now, I charge for it, but I was talking about this, a year window that I had events booked, that I had already contracted with my brides, that changed, and I couldn't recoup that cost.
Okay.
You were still under the, because like today, if I book an event today, for next year, I'm buying that permit today.
Yes, well, I don't have, yes, exactly, I am buying that permit today.
Okay, so, that's right, so, but because you were working under their umbrella, so when we got busted out of that, the check rules had already changed.
Correct.
Yeah, so then that makes it tough, so you pretty much do have to in communication.
I have brides, I have 2 office brides.
Yeah. Sherry, did you have a comment?
Well, yes, I did. As far as the photographer issues go, why don't you, you know, say when you like the bonfires, you have an annual permit, okay? Say you're home, you got an annual bonfire permit. Same thing you got. You get an annual permit, and maybe they don't pay the $750 like we do, whatever that number comes up to be, and then easy enough, just like we do. Every permit we get, we just get on the computer, we just fill out the form, we just send it in. You make that a small permit fee for them. Then automatically code enforcement has that in their computer, so they know you're out there.
Yeah, and I actually love the way that our state park annual, you know, membership goes. I think that's very reasonable.
Well, that's exactly what the annual permit is.
Except for yours is $750.
But we're already talking about reducing it down to a service permit.
And then when the event comes up, maybe you even have a permit fee. Maybe it's less money, a small amount of money, but you get online and you just permit just like everybody else, and then code enforcement knows you're there.
And I don't think code enforcement really gets, like, honestly, I don't think he's gonna care if it's me and 4 people standing around taking photos. I think the issue's the bigger events, you know?
Well, the issue is that other industry members are complaining of, if I have to get a permit, why doesn't that person that meets the definition of a vendor have to get a permit?
Well, I'm in the catering business, and if we can shoot people.
I see you. I'll get you in a minute.
We have to buy a special event permit because we serve food.
And I understand like having liability insurance, I understand that, and, you know, I understand being under a permit for holding an event on a public beach, or a private beach, if it's something that is, you know, serviced by the county in any way, I get that. You know, I just think that this is where the solution will come from, not necessarily.
Yeah, I think we got a solution for you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and this may be totally off subject, but my brides that come in, they're going to have to pay more for my services because I have to pay a fee.
Right.
Now, in addition to that, they have to pay their event fee as well for the county.
Okay.
Is there not a way, so at that point, the bride that actually chooses to use a planner is going to end up paying a lot more than a bride that chooses to not hire a planner and not hire professional vendors. Because at that point, she can hire a planner back home, bring that planner here, that planner's never gonna pay you guys a fee, and then it puts the people that are actually locals out of business. This is what I'm experiencing personally. So because now I need to raise my pricing to help recoup my losses and my costs. Is there not a way when I get a permit versus the bride that I can get a different price point that will actually still allow me to continue to book?
For the special event permit?
Correct.
There is by the number of people at the wedding.
Right, but that's no different than if the bride books it. So if she books a 50-person event
Mhm.
right? If I book a 50-person event, I'm gonna pay $500.
Okay.
But I'm the permitted vendor that has now had to pay my annual fee on top of that.
Right.
So my question is somewhat like what you offer to Seaside, Rosemary, those places where they pay $1,000 for all their permits for the entire year. Is that not an option for, you know, the weddings? Like, for instance, at your home, I mean, how many weddings do you guys hold typically in the season? I mean, a lot. So you pull all those permits and.
There's a couple different relationships there. Is that Rosemary's and Seasides own the beach. You're using a public venue for.
Most of the time I'm using private venue. And most of the time I'm shooting on private. I actually
Okay.
don't have a single public, well, I have one public beach access now.
Okay.
Because I pulled my permit, I said, well, heck, we're gonna have a public beach wedding.
Okay.
Because if I can pay my permit fee, let's do it.
To be honest, I'm not a beach vendor. I don't see the benefit of your beach vendor. I mean, for $750, what are you getting? That's good. Versus what you said, someone who's out of state, they bring their mom and the mom.
Exactly. So in other words, I'm making decisions I actually
And
apply.
what I was going to tell you earlier, we had a photographer call and ask about the outside vendors coming in and how.
I'll pay the $750 if you'll keep them coming here, because my income has taken a hit over the last 5 years like you wouldn't believe. I will pay the $750 if you will keep the other people out here taking my clients.
And then, well, and that's what it comes down to, is that we can't stop.
The only way we can do it is under the code enforcement rules, which says that, you know, we can give them a citation if they're non-compliant.
Correct, but then their thing, their response, and it's like the bonfires. I heard
Mhm.
when I watched the little video, I listened to in the fire department, their response is always, well, what's the fee?
Yeah.
They're happy to pay a $500 one-time fee and go back home. They don't care about that.
Well,
See, you said you want the non-desirable or the undesirable vendors. Well,
We
we're
do.
all desirable and we're all middle class or lower middle class that qualify, like our children qualify for free and reduced lunch and free
Mhm.
healthcare. We are the desirable people. The undesirables have money that can pay your fees and fines and don't care. We want to do everything.
I know, but so what you're asking me to do is,
$750, I don't mind sharing what I get taxed on this
Yeah.
year for 2016.
right, so
$27,000.
if I was in your, yeah,
$750, a percentage of that $27,000, I made $27,000.
okay.
$750 is a huge amount.
Right, but, okay, so what you're asking me to do is, Brian, you need to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that for people to do business on the Walton County beaches, they have to be a Walton County permitted vendor. And then, at that point, I have the ability to meet code enforcement action on them. If they decide that they're going to accept that fine, then that's on them, and that's a business decision they've made. But
The fine should be
we
greater.
are limited by Florida statute on the amount of the fine we can give, and we're also limited by the resolution, the fee resolution that establishes their increments that they grow
You
with.
guys may not be aware, I mean, all those venues take a percent, like, so if I were to shoot a wedding at Seaside, they want either 10% of my package, 20% of my package. Carolina.
No, wait,
wants it cheaper.
hang on just a second. Now, hang on
You
just,
add up all these fees, listen, I'll go back and be a teacher, I'll go back and be a classroom teacher and make my little $40,000 a year and call it a life. I was trying to do something better for my kids and myself.
Okay.
It's worse than when I was a public school teacher. Well, and for, as a perspective,
What-
for me, doesn't live in this county, if I had to pull 750, or whatever, even if I just had to pull permits for every county I shot in, I mean, that would be a huge undertaking in resources as a single person business owner. I don't have employees.
Okay.
You know, like, I mean.
but what you're asking me to do is develop a business plan for you.
No, sir, I'm.
No, you are doing
I'm
that.
happy to tell you what I'm asking you. I'm asking you to come up with a system that works for everybody that you're
And,
trying
and,
to
and we've
enforce.
explained that. We're going to make a service type vendor permit fee.
Want to weed out
that-
undesirable vendors. I'm not an undesirable human being.
I'm not trying to weed you out.
I can't afford $750.
But that's a business plan for you then. That's not,
Well, then I'll pay it if you'll keep the other photographers from stealing my business.
and we'll do that by code enforcement that is written.
That's awesome. I want my little Florida resident and I'm compliant badge in my name and the girl from Tennessee. That's it.
I think the unanimous thing is that we need a lower vendor fee. They're not getting anything for the $750, and that really is not helping the congestion or the parking and the problem. It's not the vendors.
Well, the
So-
problem is that the scale fee would make
Yeah,
more
so
sense.
we'll
I
come up with something.
may make my fee back this year. Now, that understand isn't your problem, because I only have 2 weddings on Walton County stand.
Right.
Because I have weddings in Destin, and because I do weddings in the state parks, and I do weddings, back in Eden, and I do weddings all up and down the coastline. But the problem is the beach chair companies and the other vendors that you've had and established the $750 fee for, they make that back their guarantee. You've set out chairs every single day. You know that you're gonna rent your chairs. This gentleman here that was sitting next to me, he's been waiting as it took him 2 weeks. I may not to make back his fee. I may not make it back in a year.
Okay.
Because I don't charge those types of fees. It's like Chuck said, he can't justify it.
That's why I'm not a permanent vendor.
So I'm just gonna try the issue is not having a sliding fee scale that.
But there's avenues for this man to work without having to be a permitted vendor. He works under the umbrella of other special event planners.
Then he has to say no, but then he has to say no to half of his plans.
I know, but at what point do we recognize that we're talking about, predominantly we're talking about public beach? Okay, so it is a public resource for the good of all. It's not for the good of wedding event planners or musicians or photographers.
Absolutely, talking about so many people in this area, and that does benefit everybody in this room.
I wish you knew how many people left over your fee for them to walk on the stand and get married. I'm going down to Fort Myers because the fee was $1,500, plus I quoted her wrong, and I'm like, well, I need this $750 permit. So she went to Fort Myers and I charged her a $250 travel fee. So I'm still gonna make what I made, and she's paying for me to come to Fort Myers for it.
My concern is the revenue for our county is going to substantially be affected. It will be. And I will be happy to gather the revenue for this county will be substantially affected by the way these gifts. And I'll be happy to even compile those.
Whose revenue?
The counties, the special ed tax, they're going to be implemented. I lost 2 weddings in August alone to another area.
Okay.
Because of it. So I had 2 girls that canceled because it was cheaper for them to cancel and move their wedding elsewhere.
Okay.
Between the county fees and everything else that's taking place here.
Okay.
Like she had mentioned, all the different.
You want me to give you the numbers?
I mean, I would love to see the numbers for this year, and I'd love
Okay,
to see.
we were up 12% for June. No, but that's for bed tax collections. And so what she's talking about is we're going to lose revenue. I'm assuming she's talking about bed tax collections.
You can't compare year to year because there's more properties now that are being rented out. So that's not a fair comparison. But besides we stop beating this dead horse, we'll come up with some suggestions, but would you consider lowering the vendor fee and coming up with some kind of plan to?
I'll be more than happy to bring it before these governing bodies for consideration. Okay, so it's not Brian Kellenberger that sets these. Brian is the guy that gathers all the information and gives the deciding bodies the ability to make informed.
The people that are making decisions, are they elected officials?
They're Board of County Commissioners.
Sounds good. So we need to go to our.
But first we have to go to the TDC meeting.
The Tourist Development Council.
They have to approve it, they're not elected.
Well,
Brian has said an hour and a half ago that they were going to revisit the fee schedule.
Yes, we have.
So I'm thrilled with that, and I understand your compliance
Mhm.
issues and with taking care of the beach, and I also understand the parking and people complaining, and it's a use for everybody, not just any one group. I really want to stress though, don't get hung up on, I can go under a wedding coordinator, because many of my weddings don't have that.
Yes, sir.
As I said earlier, I would like for their, I'll get the compliance, take the class, get the permit, so that we can do this, but and you're gonna charge this bride, whatever, $150 or $1,000, whatever, that you have to use vendors that are permitted, that have been approved.
Like I say,
I think the flip side of that was signage as well. I shot a wedding in New Jersey this year where the entire beach is fenced off, and if you wouldn't even step on the beach, you have to pay a fee. But when I had to go down to the beach for sunset pictures, it was fine, we paid $20, and we went out, we shot the pictures when we were done. I didn't have to pull a permit, didn't have to do anything. I don't wanna see our beaches fenced off, but I don't think it should be an unreasonable hurdle for business people to jump
I
over.
think it's not even fair to only have the event planners then pull the permits and everybody else goes underneath them. Well, why am I the only one that's separated?
I agree with that too.
Because that does stink. It stinks for me. Because now I'm out $750 so Chuck can come underneath me. Or Marie, or whoever else the vendors end up being. I mean, somebody gets the raw end of the stick here, and that's where a sliding scale
Is it?
outside
But,
vendor
but,
fee, you know?
do you not charge your clients for the services you provide for them?
I absolutely do, but I also look at the size of the event.
So if you had a musician, you would charge for a musician?
I don't charge for the musician. The musician charges for himself. I do not, no, it's actually horrible, bad business to ever, no offense to those that do choose to subcontract, it's very dangerous. It's also a very large liability. And all liability insurances, if they find out you're subcontracting, you're gonna be in big trouble. Because it does put liability in that vendor not doing their services.
And it's a $250 fee to be added to somebody's liability.
It
on
is,
average.
every ad.
So on top of fees to the county, every time that I need to be listed under a venue's permit or venue's liability insurance, I provide my liability insurance that I pay for, and then sometimes there's a fee to be added to their liability insurance. I mean, the fees are astronomical, and you have such a wide scale of
But as I
pricing here.
mentioned, I charge specifically to my clients. So
Right,
if I have
that
a
as
person
well.
that's having an elopement, they're coming here, which is a true destination wedding. It's what we've been doing here in this area for 20 years. It's the 10, 20, 15, 30-person weddings. It's the small ones. They decide not to get married back home,
Or on
they
Hawaii.
wanted to just come here instead, pay for a little vacation and walk out on the beach and get married. I have a lot of second marriages that take place. They're not looking to spend $50,000. They're coming here with maybe a $5,000 budget. So for them, yes, that fee impacts their budget substantially. Now, I don't think it's fair to say, well, Walton County is just not the county for you to get married in because you don't have the money to get married.
Okay.
Because that's not fair business act.
And that, I don't think that's a fair use of public beach access either. And for me, I grew up in the Florida Keys, I'm used to tourism, okay? And I don't think it's fair to prohibit somebody based on their income to walk out and experience nature. And that is essentially what is happening to some of these brides.
Yes.
You know, that happened to my clients
The
when I
lower
was
budget
doing.
brides are the ones that are affected. It's
Well-
not the high-end $100,000 plus weddings that are taking place in Seaside. And they wouldn't be affected.
Well, and I'm
It
also
is
talking about my
the-
$550 family session.
That's right.
You know, it's not for me, I'm a wedding and family photographer.
How do
You
they
know,
do it Lake County?
what's that?
How do they do it Lake County? Come on.
I don't go on public beaches in Bay County, I stay in private and
I
state
do,
parks.
they're just now implementing a
But
$50.
But yeah, they're just now getting
Gym.
on this, and I will happily pay the fee, and I will put another tag on my bags, but honestly, like, the reason I'm here tonight is so that during 30 minutes of sunlight, I am not getting approached by somebody interrupting my shoot, because my time is so precious, and these are people that cannot reschedule with me for the next sunset, you know, and
I think that it just goes back from what it was all the years up till now was fine.
Yes, ma'am. Well,
For the last 9 years, they were perfect.
well, see, that's the problem, is for the last 5 or 6 years, it hasn't been fine. It's been a huge source of chaos on the beach.
And I would love to see that congestion decrease. I would love for there to be an incentive for somebody to come to me and hire me to shoot their family versus the Facebook page they find where that photographer is not even a registered business.
Yeah.
I will personally say that, I mean, and maybe Karen, you can add to this too. My weddings have never had violation issues because I'm there to make sure it doesn't happen. So I understand that you've had issues in the past, but so the only person that's being punished here are those that are compliant. Those people are still gonna come here and have issues and they're still gonna do their weddings. And from what I'm hearing, obviously you're not gonna interrupt their wedding, so they're gonna get a slap on the hand and go back to wherever they're from, and they don't care at the end of the day. If you get your fee at the end of the day as well, because they've left the area and who knows where they live.
Yeah, and I think a solution to that is if you're going to have a wedding on a public beach, you have to use a Walton County permitted vendor. But right now,
I've seen
but-
people try to enforce that in other areas. That is an incredibly difficult undertaking. You know, I think there are easier solutions.
why is it difficult?
Well, things, like you said, how many officers does he have right now? 17? And
11.
how, I can tell you right now, when I go to, especially since the vendor permitting has changed, because I love state parks, I love supporting the state parks.
Last year, we checked 1,600 bonfires. So
I
we're
know,
out
I
there.
looked at- I
So
looked at your chart.
everything we do
And
takes,
my point is the
it takes time and
ratio
resources.
From the amount that's going on to the amount of people that you have to service it. And that's not something that I'm criticizing, I'm just saying it's obviously an issue here. You know,
My
I
concern is there's a big business support, but for the smaller ones, like myself, who I don't personally, I just don't do the 100 to 200 person
Right.
That's not what I'm here for. And truly, you shouldn't even want those, because you just told me how you're worried about the
But we're not.
impacts on the beach.
How many weddings do you do a year?
A year, maybe 20 now. I used to
20?
go up to 50.
And what is your standard fee?
My standard fee ranges. It ranges all the way from $250 up to maybe $2,000 depending. Most of my beach weddings, when they choose to get married on the beach, they're my small ones. I'm
Okay.
gonna charge a $250 fee to coordinate.
Okay.
That ceremony.
Okay.
So it makes it really
We're
hard.
middle class. The wealthy, you have two segments. You have
My brides typically, they don't spend more than $20,000 on their wedding. They just don't. And I love that clientele. I've done the $100,000 weddings at Watercolor. I did it for years. I've been in business for
Okay.
10 years. I don't want that clientele. There's plenty of businesses available for them. I'm here because I want to support my smaller brides that have and should have the right to come to Walton County and get married and still be able to afford it. It should be affordable. That is my concern.
I agree with her, but the thing is, your job is extremely difficult. I wouldn't want your job, Brian.
I agree.
At the beginning of the summer, when we all like, oh, code enforcement coming, okay. Now, we had a talk where there was the same thing, there was a truck pulled out, right after the ceremony. I spoke to you Monday morning, you said, thank you for bringing it to my attention, we talked to Jeff. It didn't happen again. Everybody's very polite, very courteous, they're there to make sure that everything is fine on the beach and we're okay. People do want the small weddings. There was a place for small weddings. There was also a place for myself as a Walton County person to go to the beach on my off time and enjoy the beach without saying, excuse me, we're going to have a wedding, excuse me, we're going to have a wedding. Oh gosh, another wedding. I'm in weddings, but I don't want to sit on the beach and have, big, like you said, 100, 200 people. And that's what was happening. People were putting $50 permits and saying, hey, come on, hey, 200 people, people who live on the beach, full things, I've got a friend who lives in a great beach, and she said, oh my gosh, I think we're going to move because there's always people tramping in my front beach, my front yard, and it's chaotic. So you had to have the job of helping and making everybody happy. So maybe the big weddings go to the resort. The other question is the resort has preferred vendors, which we send to TDC. These are our preferred vendors. They're okay, they're taken by the resort. If the bride says, well, I have my own fishing, as a lot of them do, I want to bring my own fishing to Tennessee, I want to bring my own photographer, then I tell them right after that, they may have to pay a $750 fine. They're not fine, they're a permit. That, they know that. Oh, well, can you send me your photographers? Can you send me your officials and see if I like them? And my times are 10 to 2. If they still want to bring their own, vendor, then they need to tell the vendor, you need to pay that. It's fair enough. And your job is very difficult because you're trying to please the homeowners, the type of people who want to sit on the beach and enjoy the beach, and the people who still want to cater to the smaller weddings, which you don't want to them to go away either. So it's difficult.
And one other issue that I've noticed, because I do shoot in parks a lot, is that since this fee issue has come up with photography, especially obviously, that's what I know. And now when I'm going to a state park with a client, the whole park turns into a photography session at sunset. And I don't want that for my clients either. I don't want unregistered business people coming and destroying the beaches and not being respectful and getting on the dunes and getting in my photos. And that has increased substantially since this has taken over, which the state parks definitely don't have the resources to send all their guys out there at sunset and hand out citations up and down the beach. I live right next to St. Andrews State Park in Panama City Beach, and if I see people in the dunes, I will walk up to myself and I will call the front gate, and not once have I ever had somebody come out in the time they're on that dune to come out and enforce the rule. And then they're off the dunes and you can't give them a ticket. So you're going to see issues in state parks because of these fees. Anybody who shoots in state parks has seen an uptick in
Sooner or later, you're going to have to recognize that conditions change and it warrants change in your business model. You're just going to have to recognize that. Because what you're asking me to do is give you favors so you can do photography business at a very reduced rate, so you can continue to exploit, so you can continue to exploit public resources. That's what you're asking me to do.
Okay, I think we have
It's not, but that's what you've been asking all night tonight. I've
You
explained.
know, I actually came in here because I believe in our area and I believe in this industry and what
Mhm.
it brings to this area.
Okay.
I think it is ridiculous to alienate people like me, like
You,
her.
I haven't alienated you. You've talked.
You're right, I alienated myself by coming into this room because all the people that are having the issues
No, ma'am.
don't come here. You know, or excuse me, all the people that are causing the issues are not going to come here and be proactive about their industry.
They do come here. In fact, we had a lot of people here tonight. We have them at other meetings we have. And, but to
I'm
think,
telling you, you can go on the Florida.gov website and you can look and see if the photographer's business is listed. And I promise you that there are people that I know that collect money from clients who are not registered businesses. And
Okay.
so not only am I going to be.
Walton County does not have a business license registration requirement.
Exactly, that's my point.
That's not our
Right.
area of purview here. What is here is beach vendors, okay? So beach vendors are required to obtain an annual permit.
And those are businesses, correct?
They are businesses.
Okay, so what about the photographer who doesn't have a registered business, who is taking clients and coming down and congesting?
It doesn't matter because Walton County does not require a business license.
No,
We,
I know,
if you,
but the congestion,
but
you
if,
know, like.
but if you do business on the beach and you offer a service or a good for a fee, you are a vendor and you're required to have a vendor permit.
I would love to encourage that you guys require us provide an EIN when we apply for our permits. You know, I mean, like, there's gotta be, if you're going to enforce it one way, why not the other?
What was that you want us to?
Your federal ID, if you register a business, you get an ID from the government.
Okay.
Why not ask them to provide that to be able to obtain a permit? You know, and then put up signs that say if you're not a registered business and have a permit with the TDC or in Walton County, you do not get to come out here and take pictures or have a wedding or have a party or have a barbecue or a bonfire.
I have advocated on more than one occasion that industries ought to form an association and ask the BCC to consider that people that do business on the beach are permitted vendors. And so that's what you're asking me to do.
I said I'm not trying to avoid a fee, sir. I'm not sitting here asking for special privilege. I'm here to represent an industry and a certain facet of that industry.
Okay.
You know, I do think that we need to have a fee because I think it helps on the congestion.
Okay.
I also think the fee will help pay for things like a tag I can stick to my bag and a sign that you guys can put on the beach.
Okay.
I'm not here to get out of your fees. I'm here to come and pay for a fee that is reasonable for what you're offering or what I'm asking.
And that was the first thing out of my mouth is that we are considering a service vendor permit, which would have a reduced fee than the standard beach vendor permit.
I would love to see that.
All I'm requesting is that you would reconsider the fees for the price.
Okay. We can put that in there, that there would be a graduated scale for,
Just because it was such a large increase. I think over time, if you want to get to that increase, that's one thing, but it was such a large.
Well, if you would have been there with that meeting that night, it would have been $1,000 across the board.
it would have been what?
It was gonna be $1,000, anything over 50 people, flat out. So, you know,
So see, it goes back to how much of a percentage.
well, I mean, I just sat here and did the math, unfortunately, they understood it, but, yeah, but that's what it was gonna be. So
One thing that I have to say is that whenever we're talking about code revisions, there's two components to it. Okay, there's the understanding of it and there's the enforcement capability of it. Okay, and so when I'm asked at a meeting, Brian, what is the enforcement capability of it? I'm going to have to be honest with it. It would be hard for us to discern if a wedding vendor, permitted wedding vendor, who is a small, we'll call it a small wedding permit or wedding planner, is adhering to that permit allowance. You see what I'm saying?
Right, I understand.
Because
I don't think I'm asking for, I understand that, my choice of doing business with smaller clients is gonna have a result in that. But it goes back to, I can plan to pay my $750 fee. I think it's harder for the price to go from where they budgeted, personally, at Bryce that budgeted their wedding, believe it or not, and have in turn now have to.
But now moving forward, when somebody inquires with you as to what does it cost, you say, well, there's $750, depending on how many people you have.
Yeah, because
But
seriously,
Yeah.
But
I
you-
mean, I have to honestly tell you, I have not lost one ride over those fees. But, and also, we have an office, we pay rent, we have a facility, so we have big expenses on our end. And I think that the fees can be adjusted depending on the photographers, the whatever. But, you say, well, what's fair? Well, what is fair? We pay the same thing.
Oh, and I'm not asking
Right,
for a
but that's what I'm saying, we pay $750, our brides still have to pay all of those fees. Plus, on top of it, we have all these other stuff we're paying, to have an office, so people.
Right, and I have an office
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of like,
5 years ago.
you just have to figure it out. Most of the time, if you're selling your rides and you say this is the fee, they understand.
So what
that.
are you saying to the brides that recognize they can go to Bay County line?
I've never had one tell me that, really, honestly, because we just work on proposals and we crank them out.
Right,
as
you're
they
offering
come in.
catering services.
We offer,
In addition,
we do a
as well
planning
as
fee, we do a planning fee.
Right, but
we
see,
do
you
all
have
that.
one $750 permit fee for all of your services.
Well, that's my choice, because we
Correct,
decided,
'cause you
we
offer
model our
multiple
business on that, because we
Correct.
knew
So to
that
me,
in order to
that,
pay for it, that's what we had to
that
do.
even makes it difficult for the one that's just a musician versus somebody that is, a company that has all these factors.
Well, but he's telling me he's thinking of doing the service fee, we won't call him that service fee. But you will, and Chuck will, and that's great. And I don't have a problem with
Well,
it.
what do you base it on?
Personally.
Number of employees,
Maybe.
revenue? And that's what I'm saying, and how does he, when he shows up, you say, I'm a type A vendor, and I'm a type C vendor.
Okay. We'll include some sort of recognition that they're for consideration for a graduated vendor, special event planner thing. But like I want to tell you is if they ask me how I'm going to enforce it, I'm going to say it's going to be very hard to enforce. So, but.
Well, do you count it based off of the chairs or based off of the people on the beaches?
How would you want me to do it? I mean, if you were me, how would you do it?
If I were you,
If you were a code enforcement officer, how would you do it?
I think it would be easier to base it off the number of chairs just because, but then that makes it.
Then they're only gonna put 10 chairs and everybody
And
stands
that's
up.
what, so that doesn't make sense.
And see, and that's what I'm getting at too, is it becomes hard to enforce on the beach, and therefore we have to say, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but it goes back to, it's really, what fits your business plan? And what you're asking me to do is adopt a whole graduated scale of fees that fits you individually.
Well, no,
And
I'm asking just for the general, so when we went up from the $50 fee and went to a sliding scale fee, because that's
Right.
truly what happened.
I thought we were talking about the permit fee, the vendor
I'm talking
permit.
about the special event fee, not the vendor permit.
Okay, it's already graduated, and
Right.
it's,
It's graduated, but it went from $50, where it was a set fee, and they knew what to expect, we told all those clients. to
Right.
Graduated.
But that's over, Jessica, that's over now. All these people have come and gone. But now we can tell them,
But now I'm losing brides to other areas because of that fee.
because it's too expensive.
Correct, they're going to Navarre Beach.
Can you limit the number of weddings that
It's requiring me to drive outside of my.
pardon me?
Is there a limit to how many weddings?
There
can be
is.
at each public
There
beach?
is, one per day.
Well, I tell you now, at the state parks, you're now seeing 3, 4, 5 weddings a night.
I understand that. But we reacted to complaints of super congestion on the beach. And I assume that the state parks will react to it when their casual beachgoer says, man, I'm tired of coming to the beach in commercial venues monopolizing this public beach.
I guess my only question is how we go from with 1% of a difference. So I'm a very honest person. I'm gonna be honest, when I report how many guests are coming, if I know it's going to be 55 versus 50, there's a $250 difference
Right?
in that price point for a couple of people that may not even end up showing up.
Yes, ma'am.
You don't know. So it is scary for me to pull that permit that's less and then have them show up. I don't wanna lie. I wanna be honest.
Do you know ahead of time if they're gonna up their numbers?
We don't know until 30 days out what their final head is.
Well, what you can do is you can, if they tell you it's 50, you buy your permit for 50. 30 days out, if they tell you it's 60, then you go back to them and say, here's for my 10 more people.
Right, so what do I do with a bride that when she comes in on a planning site, expects 100 people, in reality, 50 people come because she didn't realize that people weren't gonna travel here. If you've been planning weddings for a long time, you know that happens.
But you've already charged them for 100.
No, I don't charge for that.
No, the permit.
The permit.
It's just their permit,
Yeah, so,
or special event.
Once you get your permit, that's it.
yeah.
Non-refundable, non-transferable.
Yeah, but you've already transferred that cost to that bride, so,
That's not fair, just have them travel, pay $250 more. I mean, because she already paid it, that's what I mean.
if I go to a movie and I have to leave early, do I get my money back?
We can make analogies all night.
I know, but I can't let you sit there and make,
And I'm sorry, we're getting off of my question. My question was, how do we determine that scale to go that much based off of one person change? So 50 people versus 51 people. That's a huge difference in price.
graduated scales require a demarcation point.
Okay, and I'm fine with that. The only request I had was to consider changing that scale to be a little bit less for the smaller weddings. Because if you're truly trying to attract smaller weddings, which is what I've heard, less congestion.
But our fees are smaller for small, or,
She's talking about the jump from like 50,
Yeah, she's talking
500
about the
to
scale.
750 instead of,
It's go, it goes from.
the dollar amount needs
It's
to
a
be
huge
less.
jump. It's not a small jump.
Not,
It's double.
not the people.
It
And
doubles.
those are actual average wedding guests, like 50 to 55 people, that jump, that's a totally normal jump to make for a wedding.
okay, so you're asking for a change in the graduated schedule.
Yes,
Okay.
that it doesn't double, because I mean, I have no problem paying $50 to $100 more, it's
Mhm.
just doubling that.
Yeah, because you're at 150 and then you're popping up to what is it?
It goes 150 to 250 to 500 to 750.
You know, for my
Okay.
personal business, I have a per person add-on, if I have a package that's set for X amount of people, and they call me 2 days beforehand, and they're like, oh, we need to add 3 people, I have a per person rate that is listed in my
It's gonna be
contract.
tough for them to.
I mean, that's-
Yes. They can't. police it.
Okay. All right, I think we understand. I think we can get there. We can add some verbiage, and we'll let the deciding bodies decide what they think is good. And keep in mind, there'll be other people in the room that have other motivations to not change. And it may not even be based on if they're a big event planner or not. Okay, so come to that meeting at TDC. Is there any more questions, comments about beach vending? Yeah.
Completely out of this beach vendor crowd.
If you do, have your wedding at the house, and then
What's the presentation for that private property?
We have to buy a special.
Private property, if you have more than 30 people, your special event, it requires a special event permit.
That's all we do. We don't do anything unless it's special. So every single
What about
thing
me?
we do.
If you're down on the beach offering a fee for a service,
That's what, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
right.
In Walton County,
If you're offering a fee for a service.
gotcha.
We just hope it all checks out at the end.
We have a question from the news media.
If any vendors would like to go on camera,
I was going to say, it's customary to buy the facilitator. I appreciate everybody's attendance tonight. Thanks. These comments are all good. Remember, TDC meeting on the 3rd. It'll be at 9 a.m. in the morning. September 26th will be at 9 a.m. and it'll be in this room. Hey, thank you.